Good evening.
Good evening,
How
sir.
are you?
Roy and Travis.
Captain, my captain.
Oh, Captain,
Yeah.
my Captain.
Doctor.
Doctor.
So I feel like this is another one of those instances where we should have been recording for the last 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just shooting the breeze, having fun, giggling. Welcome to everyone. United and Divided. We are going to have a local Evansville riff right off the beginning here. I don't think I shared this with either one of you. I wanted to keep it a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
So this is we're just going to get right into a clip real quick, and then I'm going to share something that I learned about the city that we all reside in. And it's concerning because there's people that are raising issues about fluoride in the water. And as more and more people raise issues about things, you would think there would be people in our public health sphere working to address them, meaning, the COVID situation, Dr. Roy, was a really jacked up situation.
Yeah.
From the beginning, and not blaming any public health official for the origin or any of that. But once the narrative started changing, once information started breaking through on efficacy and safety of the COVID shots and the mRNA technology, like none of our local health officials have really handled that at all. They haven't addressed it. They just ignore it.
Yeah.
Fluoride is another one. Fluoride is one of those things to me that I've done a significant amount of research over many years, over a decade. I have been skeptical on fluoride in the water, and rather than trying to get attention and take it out onto a microphone and demand action from Evansville, the city, I just removed fluoride in water for my own family. We just drink water, we filter it, we don't drink public water. Yeah. However, it seems like city officials have just completely ignored the entire conversation. So I'm going to play something from RFK here pretty shortly. And again, we're going to talk about RFK a lot tonight. We're going to talk about MAHA a lot tonight. I truly don't understand what the pushback on just generally what make America healthy again, make Evansville healthier, just making anything better and healthier. I don't understand why there's so much friction back.
It's been the way we've done that for 25 years, and we're going to keep doing it.
I hope not. I hope you, me, and Travis sitting around in a table and bringing in people from the city and from other cities around the country. Hopefully we can get enough people paying attention to these things and asking questions that public awareness raises. So let's listen to this clip from RFK real quick. And then I'm going to share something from our local
not be in
water
our water.
department.
Fluoride had a strong justification in the 1940s when it was added, and people didn't understand the science, and they thought its benefit to our teeth was systemic. And by drinking it, it would enter your body and somehow protect your teeth. Now we know that there is no systemic advantage, zero systemic advantage, and that the only advantage comes from topical application. So it's the water that passes through your mouth. You can achieve that benefit from brushing your teeth. And in the era of fluoridated toothpastes and mouthwashes, it makes no sense to have fluoride in our water. The evidence against fluoride is overwhelming. In animals, in animal models, and in human models, we know that it causes IQ loss. Profound IQ loss, and it's dose related. So the more fluoride you get, the higher levels in your drinking water, your urine, the more likely it is you will lose IQ and also other neurological injuries like ADHD. It affects, science indicates that it affects kidney health, it affects liver health, that it causes hypothyroidism, that it causes osteoarthritis. Women who are more exposed have up to 50% more hip fractures than women who are unexposed. It causes fluoridasis in between 40 and 80% of our kids. It makes no sense to have in our water supply And I'm very, very proud of this state for being the first state to ban it, and I hope many more will come. And fluoride.
All right. So this, the state of Louisiana, I guess, has just banned.
Utah has too.
Okay. So there's multiple states, again, that are taking action on this particular thing, right? I don't know if either one of you have a comment on that. Travis, what is, have you, prior to sitting down with us, living in multiple cities, wherever you've lived, I know multiple cities in Indiana at least.
Mm-hmm. Georgia as well.
What is have you ever heard anyone really talking about fluoride before we sat down?
No.
Okay. So when you hear something like that, like I didn't, until I watched this clip, and I'm sure he's going to bring the, you say a lot of things about RFK. First of all, he's an attorney. Second of all, he has plowed Dr. Fauci numerous times, meaning he has simply destroyed him. Anyone that reads any of his books that talk about Fauci, there's no way that we should have ever trusted Fauci to be in charge of anything. Go back to the AIDS crisis, do some research on Grok, and find out the correlation between what he did during the AIDS crisis and how that correlates to the COVID crisis.
What how many people he's actually killed?
Yeah, well, that's
lots.
No, I know. I'm like tens of thousands, hundreds
It's
of
only
thousands.
just started. He's probably it's going to be way more. At the end of the day, though, my point to you, Travis, my question to you or statement was damage to liver, damage to kidney, 50% increase in anything if you have fluoride in your water.
Mm-hmm.
Like how has that not been front and center of any news, health? We spend all this money on public health. We spend all this money with all the studies, and yet none of this filters down to us.
I don't know. I mean, my family never really talked about it too much. My grandfather did more so. He owned a division of Culligan, so he had, I don't know, four counties around Tell City.
He was the king of filtered water.
He was the Culligan man for a good long time, up until just a few years ago they let the franchise go. But so he talked a lot about that, a lot about more the hardness, so like the particulates and things. But fluoride was a discussion sometimes, and if somebody wanted that out, a regular water softener won't do it. It requires a completely kind of add-on to the system, but a water softener won't get that out. So I did kind of know about it, but it was never discussed that it was a problem. Like it was never discussed. Like he talked about how it could come, how he could get it out if somebody wanted it out of their water, but never the problems that it may have. And when I was a kid, probably when you were a kid, the hose water was delicious when you were out playing and you were sweating your face off. You drank out of hoses or whatever, and it was all the.
Well, I had well water.
Okay.
So I didn't have fluoride in the water unless whatever seeped out of the ground.
Well, so I did. I've been on city pretty much everywhere I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And
so that explains some things.
Well, that's why I'm behind the camera, not in front of it, right?
Well, I've lived in a lot of places when I was a kid and when I was an adult, and most of them were Air Force bases, and the Air Force put fluoride in the water. So they want me
to pull a little closer to you, Doc.
He was asking me to do something.
Pull the microphone.
It did look bad, didn't it? Yeah,
you got plenty to pull the whole
I wasn't going to
thing.
say anything, and now we've taken 30 seconds off just to talk about the.
But the Air Force always had fluoride in their water, and I believe from my experience that the kids that were on the Air Force base had better teeth than the kids who were drinking city water or well water. And furthermore, the kids on the Air Force base were actually smarter than the kids that were in the local schools. So we went to local schools, but the kids that were from the Air Force base, I don't know why it was. Maybe it was because the Air Force picks very smart people to be in them.
I don't know. I know some people in the Air Force, and I don't know if that's the case anymore. At
Well,
least.
yeah, there were a lot of dummies in there, but there's a T-shirt out there that says, "I was in the Air Force because I was smarter than anyone else." So, but we had better teeth and we were smarter than the locals, and that's just my observed thought about it. Now, if I'm pretty smart, but Jesus, I could have been another Einstein if I hadn't been taking fluoride.
Well, everything that we talk about, Dr. Roy, seems to be a trade-off a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Anything that you do, nothing is risk-free. Nothing doesn't have something like a counterbalance in place. And this fluoride conversation seems to be very similar to that, in that what RFK said is wholly accurate. It maybe made sense to have fluoride in drinking water before everyone brushed their teeth and everyone had fluoride in toothpaste. We could have a more nuanced conversation as to whether that's needed and other things, and that's what we'll do with Dr. Ogle, who we had on here a couple weeks ago. But at the end of the day, for me, what I've never understood is, whatever they throw into the water, it's not super. They don't have it dialed in to like any really fine-tuned number. It fluctuates, right? So even if we could agree on what's a quote unquote safe amount of fluoride in water, it's not that. And secondly, what is a safe amount of fluoride in water for a 3-year-old versus someone that's 5 times bigger, or 10? You look at a 20-pound person in formula, and look at a 200-pound person, and a 200-pound person probably could have more fluoride in the water because you're bigger and you can fight off things like that.
I'm older than both of you guys, and we never had ADHD.
No,
in kids.
Do you think it just wasn't diagnosed?
No, because I could have spotted that. I was fairly smart when I was a young kid.
Well, I think what RFK and the whole MAHA team that is under him will start talking about here leading into September, when he has promised to bring us a lot of information about autism and what the causes are. I think what we're going to see is a wide range of things that are all piling in on top of each other and potentially causing it, mostly environmental. There's arguments out there that autism is a genetic issue, and I think there is some weight to it adding potential to having autism, but there's no way that the percentages go up that quickly in such a short period of time, being a genetic factor. I mean,
I agree.
That it takes, if you can speak on that,
it takes years for that.
Like decades, hundreds of years for it to go up so quickly. If it's a genetic, I mean, that's just not the way genetics work.
No.
So anyway, I'm going to look. I got a report up on the screen, Travis, if you want to pull that up. So this is from our local city of Evansville. This was delivered to a friend of mine who, I'll call him an informant. The goose might be named after him.
That
Dave
person.
So 2024 annual drinking water report. So it talks about a lot of things. I didn't know that the Ohio River water basin is it supplies almost 10% of the U.S. population. So the water that flows through this city supplies 10% of the population of the United States, which is kind of interesting. So it talks about different ways that they treat the water. And what I want everyone to think about whenever we're talking about this is we drink water in Evansville that comes directly out of the river. Not directly, not whatever. They treat it.
It doesn't come from river to the glass.
They treat it. So this report talks about ways that they treat it. But what you have to know is what goes into the river before it gets here and what they can pull out and what they can't pull out. So one of the things I know that MAHA and RFK are going to be talking about is all the spill water that comes from agricultural, the glyphosate or glyphosate. I never pronounce it right. All the stuff that's
Roundup.
Basically weed killer, bug killer, all these different things. If it can kill a bug, it can kill a human, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot more of it to do it. So I'm not real confident. I never have been confident that our water supply was filtering out that stuff, including all the pharmaceutical products that people were taking in and urinating out, flushing into into the river, and pesticides, herbicides, which you'll see right here, all the different heavy metals that drain from urban stormwater runoff, radioactive materials, oil and gas production, mining activity, all this different stuff is flowing in. So we could have probably multiple podcasts just talking about this, the processing of it all. But at the end of the day, why I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention.
Up a little higher, it says something about dropping IQ. Wait, hang on. Right here. What's this say?
There is no safe level. Related. There is no safe level of lead in drinking water.
Well, it says some of the health effects in infants and children include decreases in IQ and attention span. That's what caught my attention, since that's what we're talking about. But
okay, so
that's more lead.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of this, and I didn't get deep into the numbers of what percentages of what was in. I think this is going to take Dr. Roy, Travis, me, Dr. Ogle, other doctors that want to sit and look at it and really put a microscope to the water that's coming into our every household in the city of Evansville, and every school and every hospital and everything else, right? So this will be a long drawn out conversation over time, and I'm not suggesting people stop drinking water. Okay. Personally, I drink filtered water that's delivered in. It's tested. I know what's in it and what's not in it. I'm not saying it's perfect. But this basically talks about all the different parts per billion or trillion or million that are showing in our water. Okay. So let's not get into the nuance of it. But what I want to say is in this report, and I might not get right exactly to it. Basically, they tell us that they actually add fluoride still to
that was at the very top
to the water. Was it in the water?
Yeah, it was.
I think it's at the end too.
When it was talking about everything that they do to treat the water, fluoride. It listed. I was kind of glancing over it, and it talked about putting fluoride in it.
Okay. I thought it might have been.
It doesn't say how much or anything, but it does. So yeah, that very
a couple of tons.
Scroll down just a little bit, just a little more, where it was actually saying what they do to. Right here, in here, I saw it somewhere. Potassium pomegranate, petroleum based.
Pomegranate.
That's what it
fluoride,
says.
so here we go.
Permanganate.
Yeah, fluoride is added to protect. Yeah, there you go.
Fluoride is added to protect teeth, and ammonia is added to form a chloramine with the remaining chlorine. So again, you're drinking chlorine, you're drinking fluoride, and I understand why they put chlorine in. It's to kill contaminants and things that are in the drinking water. But again, we have to balance and understand what's being put in and what potential side effects we're seeing over time. You look at when fluoride was put into water and what has happened since then. Because, we talk about vaccines a lot, and I'm very skeptical on vaccines. You're a little less skeptical on vaccines, except for the new ones that are mRNA and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's any one of those things. All I'm saying is our bodies are being inundated with things that we haven't had put into our body for thousands of years, right? Hundreds of years or whatever. And so we really need real science being done, transparent science being done to really know what harm is being done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, bear in mind that whether or not your water has chlorine in it, your body has chlorine in it. And it's measured, and if it gets out of line, then you're either too alkalinic or too acidic, and that causes a big problem.
And what kind of sources do we get chlorine from naturally in our day-to-day life?
Water. No.
Okay, so for hundreds of years as we roam the earth, how did chlorine get into our life?
I don't know where it comes from. It's probably because of our consumption of salt, because sodium chloride is salt, and that's an essential negative ion in your body. If you don't have any chlorine in your body, then you're not alive.
Yeah, I wish we had one more person on our team and they could just large language model grok
I
things.
can right here. I got the app.
Well, no, all I'll say is, how does chlorine occur naturally
Salt,
in our diet?
sodium chloride.
Well, yeah. So chlorine occurs naturally in our diet, primarily as chloride component of sodium chloride, table salt. So table salt is not natural.
So I show other foods like seaweed, olives, and some vegetables.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, when was sodium chloride introduced?
It like 4,000 years.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not sitting here trying to, I think salt is super important. Someone that goes in, does a carnivore diet, if you're not intaking proper amounts of salt, there's some real problems. So
Yeah.
I'm not here saying salt is a problem. I'm not here saying sodium chloride is a problem. What I'm saying is adding chlorine, which is something you put in pool water, which you can smell that if there's too much, if you got too much chlorine in a pool and you around it, can overtake you. So, I mean, to me, that's your body. If you can smell it and it's like,
but I doubt we have near that much as parts per million go.
No.
Agreed.
Okay.
Again, we're talking about a balance here. We're talking
Yeah.
about different things that are added in that are overwhelming our system. And I'm not saying any one of them necessarily needs to be pinpointed and pulled out. What I'm saying is all these things get pushed in at levels that are not quote unquote natural, and our bodies are filters, and some of the stuff makes it out, some of the stuff doesn't make it out, and it will impact you or a smaller kid differently. Like it's all different. And how do we monitor that, I guess?
Humans are born with chlorine in their body. I mean, you don't acquire the amount of chlorine that is in your body. It's there, and it's an essential part of the pH balance of your blood. Because if you have too much chlorine, then it will make you more alkaline. If you have less, it will make you less alkaline and more acidic. And we look at those, that if we do a blood test on somebody, the main things that we look at are electrolytes, sodium, potassium, chloride, and bicarbonate. So those are the main things that make up the human body and also the bodies of all animals.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, obviously, chlorine is on the periodic table. It's something that occurs naturally. I just did it real quick. What happens if too much chlorine is added to the diet or body? There's hyperchloremia, high blood pressure, kidney strain, fluid imbalance.
Yep.
Which I guess would mean swelling.
Either swelling or decreasing the amount.
Gastrointestinal issues, which is how many the rate of, I would say, irritable bowel has gone way up. I mean,
nothing to do with chlorine.
Yeah. Well, it says gastrointestinal issues. Extreme high salt intake may irritate stomach, causing nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea.
Yeah.
And chlorine gas exposure, rare. Inhaling chlorine gas, not dietary, or consuming heavily chlorinated water can irritate the respiratory tract.
Chlorine gas was used in the First World War. It was the first thing.
Bioweapon?
It was the first chemical that the Germans used. Unfortunately, the wind was going the wrong direction, and it went back to the Germans and killed a whole lot of soldiers.
Was that unfortunate?
That was unfortunate for them.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't unfortunate for us.
Okay, there you go.
And this was way before the United States entered the First World War. It was like 1914, 1915.
Well, I mean, so I didn't really mean to go down the chlorine rabbit hole per se, because what the main point of it for me was the fluoride and what RFK just said. and my general point for chlorine or any other things that are added to the water is, again, how do we know how it's impacting us in the short term and the long term? All these different things that are coming in through the water, through medicines, through food, through all the things that we're trying to eliminate.
I would be more concerned about the medicines that are in there because, there are a lot of things. People flush their old medicines down the toilet, and they shouldn't be doing that because that ends up eventually in the drinking water. So I would stay away from that. But there are a lot of things. There are a lot of female hormones that get into the drinking water and get into the food. And it can cause young female children to develop breasts much faster. I saw it in my daughter. She was 8.5 years old when she began to grow breasts.
Wow.
And that
never used to be a thing.
No, that
ever.
Was never a thing. And if you look at them now, I saw a young lady that looked like she was about 8.5 or 9 years old, and she was growing breasts already. No, that doesn't happen to every young woman, but it's more common. And the thing that makes that is the use of soy, because soys have a different type of hormone in them that is very close to estrogen.
Yeah, I mean, so again,
and when you talk about, you see young men who are growing breasts, man boobs, and they typically will have.
You can't see Travis, but he's fondling them himself.
Yeah,
I was making them dance. I don't have the pecs to.
It's not that they're overweight; they just are growing man boobs, and that's probably from consumption of plants that we didn't used to consume, 40 or 50 years ago, like soy. I mean, who ever heard of tofu before about the 1980s? But that's pure soy right there. And people eat tofu like it was, it's so good for you.
Tofurkey.
Well, not to mention, so again, this is just another way that we get inundated with chemicals and things that are not truly tested well. But think about all the things that they add to meat and even spraying on our vegetables. Some people talk about being vegan, vegetarian as it's so healthy, but unless you know everything that's been sprayed on that thing over time, you really don't know. And think about steroids and vaccines and all the different things that are pushed into animals, and it's still ending up in our bodies. I heard a thing a long time ago, so you can maybe tell me I'm wrong on this, Doc. But because of the stuff that's added to chicken and how much chicken we eat, I heard that was part of the reason why young girls were developing faster as well.
It's not just the chicken. It's anything.
Soy, anything that has that stuff in it.
It has. It can get into the system in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. But I can remember when I was in grammar school, none of the girls grew breasts until they were about 12 or so. And now you're seeing them 8, 9 years old.
Well, girls hit puberty a little earlier than boys, right? Generally.
Yeah.
And I think they're hitting that quicker too, because like my wife's told me, she was very young when she started her lady
all the
cycle. She's worried for that for our daughter. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely, So again, I'm part of the theme of today for me is the make America healthy again. And I just, you see all the attacks and all the criticism. And let me just say this. I'm okay with people being very critical and questioning things that are happening with RFK or with Trump, or I just wish it happened on both sides of the aisle a little more balanced.
Can I bring something to the table? Can I get your guys' opinion on something? Because you brought up RFK and he, him being an attorney, and my wife and I were having a discussion, and we're starting to veer in our thoughts on things a little bit, and she is getting upset with him.
It's called marriage. Well,
no, but she's getting up. We used to be pretty much spot on our political views and things, but she's getting kind of upset because she feels like he doesn't have the expertise to do the things that he's doing. He's not a doctor. He's not, he hasn't studied things as far as the FDA, like, food additives and stuff like that. He's probably studied them, but he's not educated in them necessarily, according to her. And so I was just kind of wanting to see your guys' kind of take on that, how you feel. I mean, I think he's doing good things. Her other concern is that just everything's happening too fast. She thinks too much is happening at one time.
Well, let me tell you. I'll give my input, and then Dr. Roy hit his.
Okay.
Here's my gut response to this, because first of all, I would have her read any of his books or do a summary of any of his books. He was an environmental lawyer, and if you bring an environmental lawsuit, and you are going after millions and millions of dollars against companies that put things into the environment, you learn things about the different chemicals that are put into everything, and you have to argue it not just about how you feel, but about what stands up in court.
Well, in order to be an environmental attorney, you have to study environmental stuff, and it's actually an extra year in law school.
Okay.
Because I have a friend of the husband of a friend of mine who's he's an attorney, and he went to a specific place to get environmental law taught, and so they're not just lawyers that are spouting bullshit. They're trained environmental lawyers, and there are a lot of things that go along with that, hormones and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, when I will say, in addition to that, Dr. Roy brought up some great points there. What I will say also, it's not necessarily what RFK thinks. He has a team of people under him, people that are not a part of the old establishment. I would probably have people really look at what the FDA has become and what pharma has become. You're going to hear things in the media, if you start paying attention to it, on the revolving door between pharmaceutical companies, FDA. So they pass things, they know what's coming, and then they get on the other side of it and they protect them, or they sell them. So they're selling them on the FDA side, or they're selling them on the pharmaceutical or big ag chemical side.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, the thing I don't really understand is happening too fast. You said that. And I don't.
That's not just RFK. That's the entire administration.
Well, okay.
Trump's doing too much at one time.
It's not happening fast enough.
Yeah,
for me.
And we talk about the mRNA thing a lot. And I wanted a ban on mRNA or a pause on mRNA day one.
Yeah,
and I think I have a clip in here that might kind of clean this up a little bit. Like all the food dyes, all the things that have been banned in Europe for a very long time, all the things. So they were banned in Europe for a long time because Europe is not controlled by the FDA, and the cycle of profit seeking that we have here. So if you go to Europe and you see people walking down the street, Europeans look a lot different than we do. And so again, what does happening too fast mean? If I think something is harming my kid, I want that to stop yesterday.
So once again, it's not what RFK is doing. It was more the Trump,
so not just medicine.
No, it wasn't medicine. Okay. No, it wasn't just the medicine. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I shouldn't have said that. No, it's all of the executive orders, all of the loss of government jobs,
that's what we voted for.
Well, that's what half of us voted. Half of the country voted for, a little over half.
Yeah.
We've heard waste, fraud, and abuse for decades. We've heard.
I'm with you guys. I'm just
no. And so this is what presidencies. Joe Biden did a lot of executive orders. Obama did a lot of executive orders. The thing probably that Trump can't get outside of himself and away from his ego is we probably didn't need to have a press conference of him signing all of them every day. Like you're drawing attention to things that haven't historically have attention drawn to them. And I think he was trying to take victory lap after victory lap after victory lap. And of course the media is going to lap it up. The media acts like they hate him, but the media would be dead. I mean, they were dying before he came back in office. Yeah. Now it's Trump again, Trump every day again, and they actually have something to talk about. So they act like maybe they don't like him, and that's their shtick. But they're doing things to get viewers and to get clicks and to get people divided against each other. And so, you know, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree that there's things that he does wrong, and that he's done them wrong a lot. But too fast, I'm not really a too fast guy.
It's like not too fast enough.
No, because you got 2 years and there's going to be midterm elections.
Well, that's what I told her.
You got to get everything
now
you
before
you got to get it in.
Yeah.
You got to do as much as you can, and then fix it. It's like fire ready aim or something like that. You know that. Yeah. There's books on it.
Shooting from the hip.
Yeah, shooting from the hip a little bit. But again, so what I will say, to your wife or anybody else that says it's too fast, also consider this. The man was president for 4 years. He had a 4-year break. He didn't stop thinking about being president. He didn't stop thinking about the things that he didn't get done. And he actually had a 4-year window to look at. Here's everything that if I had 4 more years, this is what I would do. And this is why I think it would be good. And so he's coming in actually probably better armed than anyone has ever been. And so, and his team, just personally, I think his team's a lot better than it was.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, you're going to have criticism. There's going to be people that get fired. There was somebody that was just fired here last week or so.
Yeah.
Somebody in the FDA, right? Somebody, I don't know. There was somebody that just got let go. Anyway, I've rambled on about it, so I apologize. But I don't really agree with it happening too fast in anything. I get people, if you're here illegally, especially if you have deportation orders, you should have been gone yesterday. I'm sorry, you're not a legal citizen. You didn't come here legally. I don't believe you get due process. No due process. I've seen this meme a lot. No due process coming in, no due process going out.
Yep.
So there's where we are. Did you have something else you wanted to break down into that?
Well, along those same alleys, Denmark just said that they are getting rid of the burqa. And if you will not affiliate with the ways that we do things in Denmark, then you should leave.
Yeah.
And we will help you leave.
Well, are we talking about, I guess we're talking about immigration?
Yeah, immigration.
Okay. So, I mean, what people here have, the argument that I've heard, I didn't have any immigration clips, I don't think, queued up, but a lot of the arguments that I hear here locally, Travis, is all these people should get due process. And
they didn't get due process coming in.
Well, I mean, we're still behind from COVID on our court. Our court system are still not caught up. And so there's no way you're going to get people out. And Obama and Clinton deported people. Obama's nickname was the deporter in chief to a lot of people. And they didn't get due process. And so, again, to me, it's a little bit of the media playing the Trump game. They didn't talk about it whenever Obama was deporting them because Democrats and Republicans forever have agreed that we need a secure border and we can't have illegals and criminals in it. I mean, not to, and never mind that Biden brought them in, was, shacking them up in expensive places in New York and giving them health care and giving them a stipend.
Did I send you that clip, or have we talked about that clip with the bar chart behind Elon and another guy who's working on the Doge about the amount of Social Security numbers given to? Yeah, have you seen that? Did we have that here?
I think trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
No. No. What they were actually showing that, and they do legally give.
Yeah, they get a Social Security number
if they work, if they're on a work visa, so that they can pay taxes on the income they make and everything. But it showed 2020 was, I might be making up the numbers, but let's just say 200,000, and in 21 like maybe 300,000, and 22 like 200,000-300,000 or whatever. Anyway, 24 was like 1.7 million. It was just a huge jump, and I can find this clip for you, but and Elon up on stage goes, and we all know what was going on in 24. It's like it was an election. They were bringing in more voters. They were figuring out, even though you're not supposed to be able to vote without citizenship, You got a social security number,
not in the national elections, but
yeah.
local elections.
You're also not supposed to kill people or have drugs, but you still do. So I mean,
people,
well, and another add-on argument to that is the more people you have in a state, the more seats that you have in Congress. And like if California's been shedding people pretty rapidly here for the last several years, and so they're going to lose seats. So part of the strategy is bringing in illegal people, giving them a social security number, throwing them into California, and it keeps your seats. Or you can throw them into a red state and give that state more. You can vote in local elections. You can vote for local judges. These people are able to vote in local elections in a lot of states. And so it absolutely does move the needle. So, I mean, I just don't, no one can really argue, it goes back to that same argument to me about you shouldn't have voter ID laws for voting. There's no rational argument that I've heard that makes any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's unfair, it's racist, it's whatever, all these dumb things. It's like you have to have an ID to get anything.
Well, that has been settled in this state.
Well, people still don't. It's been settled, but people still use it.
Indiana was the very first state to require a picture ID issued by an agency in order to vote. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld that. And so Indiana is the first one to do that. And the thing about it, they say, oh, you make these poor people buy these things. No, you can get if can prove you're a citizen, you can get a photo ID in Indiana for nothing. Not a driver's license.
It's just not an argument. It's not a valid argument.
No.
But people use it in politics whenever they're just saying, well, such and such can't do it because they are poor, or such and such can't.
They're poor, or they're black, or they're green, or whatever.
There's so many things that they say that are so dumb and racist and it works as a counter. It's like, oh, well, he didn't have access to a phone because he's a black kid. I mean, like, come on. Every kid has access to the internet. It's just not even an argument anymore. So let's circle back around to kind of the medical side of things. And
I drug us away from everything.
And MAHA. No, it's all important. It's all relevant and things that people should be talking about. You're seeing, if you have social media and you pay attention at all, these things are coming into your life. And so part of this conversation for me and for us is just like flushing them out and making it okay to talk about. So here's another one. I will say I've got some friends in my sphere that talk about this quite regularly. I personally, looking back in my life, I don't remember looking up into the sky and seeing every time a plane would go by a big line in the sky. And you always just kind of wonder, and you hear contrails and chemtrails and all that.
Yeah.
This is interesting, and now there's several states that are piling on here.
Well, I can.
Let's watch. It's a 28-second clip, and you'll pyrite.
Show it.
I'll let you have the first crack at it.
Yeah.
That is not happening in my agency. We don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA. And a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the clip right before this, they're talking about the different things that are added to jet fuel. More clouds in the sky, a bunch of different things, aluminum adjuvants, things that are coming down out of the sky, and there's a debate going on.
Yeah.
Why are there so many chemtrails compared to old days? Anyway, go ahead, Doc.
There are not anymore. I can show you a photograph that was taken in 1943 of the entire U.S. Army Air Force flying over Germany with huge contrails behind them. All these large, and these were not jets; these were piston engines.
Was it exhaust?
Yeah, it was the exhaust.
Yeah.
And, everybody says, oh, we never used to see that. Well, hell yes. In 1943, it was all over Germany. That's how they could see before the radar. They could see that the planes were coming for them.
Okay, so the argument that he has here, the thing that if you watch this whole clip, it's from the Vigilant Fox.
Maybe they have put some stuff in jet fuel.
Well, there absolutely is there's weather manipulation conversations that are going on.
Really? I can't imagine that our government would want to. They've been doing it since Vietnam, for crying out loud.
I understand your counter argument is yes, there have been trails up in the sky and they've been there forever.
Yeah,
and I can't argue that. I agree with you. If there is, or whatever. The part of it is if they are experimenting with things that they're putting into the sky, and there's if you listen to Tucker Carlson, there's been countless people out here that have they've sprayed different agents on cities. They've run tests and done things on people.
I know all about that
without telling us. Without really having a big conversation about it. So again, if they're spraying something or putting something in the jet fuel or whatever, whether it comes out the fuel or if it's out a different thing, if there's aluminum in that, and if I didn't show the clip last week, there's fairly significant evidence right now that autopsied people with autism that have been autopsied have much higher levels of aluminum in their brain than non-autistic people. And so again, any way that we can get this aluminum into our system is a potential harm, whether that's, we're having the vaccine conversation, we're having stuff coming out of the sky with com or chemtrails. It's just, again, we're inundated with things. And again, I'm just trying to pinpoint MAHA is trying to get at least some truth into where are these things coming from and what's doing the most harm.
Well, the United States Air Force has been trying to regulate the weather since Vietnam, and they did a lot of experimentation over North Vietnam back in the 60s, and they actually were able to control the amount of rain that came in the monsoons, because the North Vietnamese were coming through Laos with all their armaments, and they set it up to make much heavier monsoons to keep the North Vietnamese from going through there. And you don't want to, you can't convince me that they didn't continue doing experiments with things after the Vietnam War was over. They continued doing that the whole time. But, just because you see a contrail in the sky doesn't necessarily mean that it's poisoned, because it can be a simple matter of water vapor conglomerating, because it's pretty darn cold at 25,000 feet.
Well, none of us here want to try to be fear-mongering and make people scared to go outside or look up at the sky like, oh my God, here's their good. But these are the things some people are getting super,
Let me throw another one at you.
Oh boy.
All right. If the people who have autism have more aluminum in their bodies and their brains, why aren't the Amish more just the same amount of autism? And the answer to that is that the Amish do have autism in there. I told you about a couple of weeks ago about the young lady who was either an Amish or Mennonite that I saw in Walmart. She was pushing a cart around, and I stopped her and tried to make a conversation with her, and she was just plain autistic. She was doing all the things that people with autism do. So they do have that, but they just don't think that it's different from anybody else. And God only knows how much aluminum is in the brains of the Amish.
Well, again, these are just things that you would think we could do better at testing, monitoring, and having information coming from our public health officials that are, sharing information back with us that, hey, there's here's some patterns that we see. Here's the people that have these diseases. This is what they have in common. This is what I think large language models and AI is really going to bring us. We talked about it in several episodes, but, take everyone's blood cultures, or, if you've got these particular things going on, what do they have in common with each other? You can measure the different things that people have going on and really get a pinpoint on here's the actual chemicals, or here's the thing that's really causing the problem.
That's actually stepping over a line of privacy.
It doesn't. It can be not attached to a person. Like it just. I don't care if my blood goes to, if it was just being tested. And it didn't have me attached to it. Just think if it was blockchain, if it was blockchained and they would know it was your blood or anybody else's blood, like what harm would that be? If it was your test and they had no way they'd know it was Dr. Roy.
Well, if they're collecting DNA all the time.
Oh yeah.
Every time you like take a DNA test, if you say, I took 23
Ancestry or 23andMe.
Yeah, 23andMe. And those never go away.
Yeah.
So if your DNA ends up in a crime scene, they're going to come and arrest you.
Well, again, so if I go get a test and I get a printout and it says, here's all the things that you've got, right? And take my name, take everything that's affiliated to me, but just say, here's my conditions, put it into a database and compare that with other things.
But they're not doing that now. They're selling DNA to anybody that wants to buy it.
Yeah.
The companies that do the 23andMe. That's why I haven't had one of those. I know that I've got some mutations that are potentially harmful.
Travis had a big point. He was raising his hands in there. What'd you have to add, Travis?
You had just brought up. Sorry, it wasn't. I did a little quick just grokking on it, and it was just something else. I'm throwing my wife under the bus a lot in this podcast, but she was also complaining about. This made me think of the autism registry that he had kind of thrown around, the idea of having kind of a registry to get symptoms and get kind of blood work and try to, mainly for a research study on autism and what causes it and try to help keep it from happening and all those kind of things. And she was losing her ever-loving mind. But after grokking it looks like that it's actually not going to, it was just something he kind of said in passing. It's probably not going to happen. And I was trying to tell her that I was like, well, if we want to figure out how to stop it from happening, we have to have some type of large study. She said, well, then they need to have a study and they need to pay them and they need to want to do it and not just make everybody do it. And anyway, you just talking about the privacy.
The information out there, we talked about it on many podcasts ago, is if you look at the rates of autism and the increase and only, I think he said something, or the numbers are like something like 25% of autism are severe. Like there's three different categories of autism. One is kind of like high functioning. You can have a job. You can kind of live on your own.
Doc over here.
Dr. Roy, Elon Musk, people that, and it actually can, to me, be a tool and a benefit if used properly. Look at Dr. Roy, look at Elon Musk.
I'm looking at Doc now. Oh,
yeah. Here I am.
Elon, people are critical of him, fine. They make fun of him, fine. He has a unmatchable work ethic. He's got hyper focus. He has a steel trap of a memory, and when he gets on a mission, he's not stopping the And this is my plug for Accountant too. If you go see that movie, like the Ben Affleck is an autistic guy who plays a character, and he does a really, really good job of it. But it just talks about looking at it as a benefit rather than a hindrance. But the severe autism is an issue. Like they're calling it a public health crisis because of the debilitating effects it has on a family that has someone with super severe
people
autism.
Lost their minds when he said that about the autism.
I'm sorry. People are going to have their feelings hurt, but science is about here's what's going on and you have to deal with it, or you can ignore it, throw it, like bury your head in the sand, but that doesn't stop it from happening. Mm-hmm. And so what they call it a national security crisis. I mean, it can, like, if we lose that amount of people and there's people not in the workforce, and our public dollars are going to take care of people that are debilitated like this. I mean, you can't continue to do that. You just can't. So Did you have anything else on that, Roy?
No.
Okay. So I think this clip comes back to, might come back to address you and your wife's conversation about quote unquote doing too much. And I believe this particular question is coming from Stephen A. Smith, who people are throwing around his name as a potential presidential nominee, presidential candidate on the Democrat side, even though I heard him say a day or two ago that he can't even identify with Democrats anymore, even though he's
How about
a clear Democrat. I mean, just like RFK. But this, I wanted to pull this out because, first of all, I think it kind of addresses a little bit about what your wife is saying, but also I think this is just a really awesome question and a good response.
Here, thank you for coming on the show. HHS reduced your employee status from 82,000 to 62,000 employees, if I remember correctly. Cut about 1.8 billion. But nevertheless, you got a lot of American citizens wondering how on earth are you going to ensure that we're going to become a healthier society with over 20,000 less employees to look over things and purview things to some degree. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say during the Biden administration, my agency grew by 38%, and Americans got sicker. So it's not throwing money at it or hiring people that is solving the problem. We have so much redundancy in our agency. We have 100 communications departments. We have 40 IT departments. We have 40 procurement departments. What we did is we're streamlining the agency and we're recalibrating its trajectory so that people there are narrowly focused on one issue, which is how do we end the chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 3% of Americans had chronic disease. Today it's 60%. It's costing us $1.6 trillion a year. About 95% of our healthcare budget is going to chronic disease. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease. 74% of our kids cannot qualify for military service. So this is an existential threat to our national security. It's an existential threat to our economy. And we have to narrowly focus on that. And that's what the new HHS is doing.
I like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure. He said 70-something% of our people can't qualify for military service. I think it's higher than that.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that seemed like a very, very
a lot of those people were people who used drugs, and also people who were overweight and out of conditioning. When I was a kid, we went out and played at recess for 1 hour every day, and once I got into junior high school, we had definitely, we called it gym class, and we were doing stuff like, climbing up ropes and running 3 miles, and all of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And they don't do that at schools anymore. If you want to run at school, you have to sign up for, long distance running. I see them at Plaza right across the street from where I live, and they are running around there, but there's only like 25 of them and not all 100 of them. And the problem is they're morbidly obese, a lot of them. I went to see a high school basketball game. I won't tell you which two high schools were playing, but I would say that 1 out of 4 or no, more like 2 out of 4 students were morbidly obese at both of these high schools, and they're well-known high schools in town. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even their cheerleaders were fat.
Well, what I've heard, I just heard this in the last week, and I don't think I have a clip. Maybe I do. It might surprise me it wouldn't surprise me if I found it and added it. But what I heard was we are the most overfed, undernourished population that's ever been.
I agree.
So it's not that we don't have access to food. It's not that we can't necessarily afford
we
food.
Eat trash.
We just eat stuff that is empty calories and actually makes us hungrier, makes us crave more sure. food. So it's like, it's not our fault. Like, there's no shaming going on here. When you show up to a gym and there's, 1 out of every 2 kids is obese, that's not something that it's not funny. We're not making fun of it. We're not saying, oh, look at you. It's not shaming. It's just, we have a problem and we have to fix the problem. And we should all be uniting around the solution to this problem. It's not about, oh, I'm bigger than you, and
But you'd be fat shaming.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just a silly game, and I got a clip for calling out journalism all about that. But
the both of the large health systems in this town have pediatric bariatric departments for morbidly obese children, and they've got people that are trying to help with that. And they're starting these kids on GLP-1 drugs when they're 8 or 9 years old because they're twice as heavy as they should be.
You know, you say you blame it on the food, Chad, and we can blame it on the food to an extent.
No, I think it's a lot of things. Environmental. It's food. I think it's a lot of.
I think it's
things.
Environmental. I think it's a family. Never mind. I'll say too much.
Why would you say too much? Are you afraid you're going to make your wife mad?
It's easier for a family that is not particularly wealthy. It's easier for them to buy cereal than it is to buy oatmeal.
Well, sugar is like crack.
I think it's all the soda. I think we don't let my daughter drink soda.
Sugar is like crack.
We don't. Well, sugar. Okay, so there you go. So she normally drinks some type of like juices or anything like that, or milk. You know, well, actually, she drinks nut milk because she's got a cow milk issue. But anyway, I mean, it's stuff like that she drinks, which some of that I think has some sugar in it probably and things. But I mean, just all the sodas and like potato chips and just like all just the junk food.
They're not even potato
anything you can get in a bag. Anything you can get in a bag or a box.
Yeah.
We're not. My family's not wealthy in any way, shape, or form. We're substantially under you guys, and weak. And my daughter's not. You know, and you can keep that from happening. Like you can, maybe not entirely. There can be like glandular issues or whatever. Like there can be some medical issues somewhat, but that's not.
Well, that's why they've got pediatric bariatric setups here in town, because they know that, and they're trying as hard as they can to get these people. But I really don't know if they're talking to the parents.
And that's who needs to be educated
about how to buy things. Well, do not ever give your child sodas. That's
who needs to be educated, Travis. But
as the parents,
they're also we also send our kids to school for 6 to 8 hours a day, and if you look at most school lunch menus, it is disgusting. I mean, it really is. It is terrible. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, some people can and will send lunch with their kids.
Yeah.
But if not, I'm telling you, at most, like 90% of the things that you see in those things, even if they're serving them vegetables, they'll serve them a fruit thing, or they'll serve them a vegetable tray. It'll have dip, and if you really dig into that ranch dressing or whatever it is that they're giving them, it's not
all
good.
Sugar.
It's seed oils and crap.
About 20 years ago, they decided that people were getting fat because they were consuming too much fat. So they took all the fat out of the things like ranch dressing and put sugar instead. And sugar makes people fatter than anything. Mm-hmm. You can eat a complete fat diet and still lose weight because your body will burn that fat. You got to exercise with it. And that's one of the reasons that I go out and walk my dog.
You don't have to exercise a lot, though.
No,
because I mean, I can lose weight just if I just do carnivore. I really don't have to change my workout, and the weight just falls off. I mean, it just happens.
Well, and that's because you're eating all protein and fat.
Well, your body
and not carbohydrates.
Yeah, your body, when you take in sugar or carbohydrates, will store it.
Sure,
and it won't burn fat until you're out of carbohydrates.
Well, and that's the thing. It turns the stuff into fat. If there's no need for sugar, it turns it into fat, and the fat gets on your body.
Yep. So I got another clip here, and I think this is probably. I hope this lines up with what we've been talking about.
The National Institute of Health. My job is to do research or to promote research that the private sector wouldn't do. right? So if you have a discovery that says, look, this very, very inexpensive medication can solve this problem this other very expensive drug does, who's going to do that research? Or you have a research program that says you don't need this drug at all. Just take the recent action by Dr. McCary on food dyes. The pushback he got was, well, there's no research proving it's bad. Well, who's going to do research proving it's bad? Like, it's like you put petroleum-based products into children, and no one has any incentive to do research that's proving it's bad. You want a system that says, look, you're not allowed to put petroleum-based dyes into children unless you prove it's good. I mean, that's the other way around, right?
Right.
We have to rethink how we do our structures are based on an accumulation of many decisions that really do need to get rethought, and the results are just bad. That we have a chronic disease crisis that is killing Americans at scale. Obesity, I'm telling you nothing you don't already know. But
I just think about it makes me sad when I hear about that. It's why my instinct has always been, why is the federal government involved at all? Get them out of here. We have a state system, or a county system. Let them kind of handle it. At least that's closer to the patients. But you're right. You can make a difference.
I'm the director of the National Institute of Health.
I think that was there we go.
Yep, that was the end.
Yeah.
So I think that circled kind of back around again, Travis, to your wife's comment about why so fast and why all the change. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, again, is a direct underling to RFK. He was canceled during COVID because he was one of the brave people that came out and was talking about the things that were going on that didn't align with a lot of the things that me and Dr. Roy were talking about very early. So he was paying attention to those things. And, he's an outlier. He's not afraid to, he's not getting paid by Big Pharma. He's not getting paid by, whatever. He's in there to try to make Americans healthy again. And to do that and do it, you have to do it rapidly. I mean, it really does, in my opinion, have to be shock and awe. You can't slow trickle in. Well, we're going to look at food dyes for the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to swap that out and be more like Europe. There's so many things that we don't know. That part of this thing for me today, Travis, was all the different things that could potentially be bad. If you wait 10 years to really put focus on it, it'll never get done because it turns into politics.
Yeah.
Whereas what he just said there to me was part of my job that I feel with this podcast is not doing the research necessarily and saying I'm right about something. It's doing the research and saying I'm hearing these things from this particular person, or I've heard this thing that doesn't sound right, throwing it up against a wall, throwing it up against Dr. Roy and saying, well, Dr. Roy thinks that's bullshit. Or let's look at what large language models and all these other doctors have to say and then come back a little more educated. At the end of the day, we have to throw all these things into the pile. And we have to say, no, we don't need to do studies on these things. You need to prove to me how it's adding benefit to what you're putting into my body. Same thing with fluoride in the water.
Yeah.
Show me if, there's cities around the country that don't put fluoride in their water. Prove to me that those cities in America have worse teeth. If that's the case, then we can have a deeper conversation. Maybe it's not adding fluoride to the water. Maybe it's having education about brushing your teeth, whatever it is, So anyway, that I felt like that was pretty pointed.
Yeah.
That leads actually right into the next one.
All right.
I think this should. I don't always get them right, but these seem to be falling in line pretty well with each other here. But again, part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, to me, is because we talk about things that local news and even national news doesn't talk about at the fine level, even though I am seeing some of it trickling in at the national level. Most of it is done in podcasts. And, these are things that I bring to the table that I feel like I want people that I know and love to hear. They're things that are relevant, and they're things that I think we should be focusing on. Doesn't mean this guy is right. Doesn't mean that anyone's right, but we should be asking the question. So let's listen to this. And this one, I think, has to do with vaccine safety.
Junior doesn't need to eradicate any vaccine from the program. He just needs to show you how long the safety trial was. He just needs to make available to you and make sure that doctors give you true informed consent, that these are known side effects, that we haven't done proper trials to know how long they would be. Had we done placebo trials, we would have answers to those things. How often are these things happening? But remember, I just read 20 side effects of a list of about 60, and every single time every injection, you are taking that risk of 60 different side effects for that one vaccine over and over and over again, 72 times, and counting and growing. We are rolling the dice. If
Russian
transverse
roulette.
myelitis is rare, and encephalitis is rare, and multiple sclerosis is rare, and thrombocytopenia is rare, and myocarditis is rare, and pericarditis is rare, how long before all of those added together start moving out of the category of rare because they're all stacked on top of each other every time we do this?
Who's that? Who is that?
He's in the MAHA.
No one is trying to
administration.
eradicate
I'll
a
give it to you.
vaccine
Del
program.
Bigtree.
What we're trying to do is say we need to do studies. We have never looked at the entire vaccine program, ever. We've never, ever looked at those that got all 72 of their vaccines compared to those that got none. We asked the NIH to do that study, Robert Kennedy Jr. and I did, and a team of scientists. Why won't you do a retrospective study? If a prospective study, meaning having a placebo group and denying them of your faith-based religion that it is perfectly safe even before a trial, will you at least do a retrospective study of the vaccine safety data link, which has 10 million people in it, tens of thousands of unvaccinated individuals, which the Institute of Medicine said is perfectly capable of doing a full, well-powered study, comparative study between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. Back in 2017, the NIH, Francis Collins and Tony Fauci said, we will never do that study. You're journalists. Your job, like mine, like a detective, is to come up with motive. What would be the motive for the largest, most powerful scientific institution in the world, filled with the greatest scientific minds, to not do the most obvious comparative study? Do you think they haven't done it? Do you think they want me at this microphone today? Do you think they want Robert Kennedy Jr., now the head of HHS, because so many people now know the truth that you've never written about? Do you think they wanted to stop this? Do you think they don't realize if they'd have done a comparative study between the vaccinated individuals and the unvaccinated individuals and proved to the world that the vaccinated have less cancer, less ADD, ADHD, less lupus, less asthma, less autism? Don't you think you would have been printing that at the headline of every one of your newspapers? Don't you think they've run that study so that they could end this conversation forever?
Amen.
Nope.
Come on. Where is your common sense? Where is your common duty as journalists to tell the world the truth? Robert Kennedy Jr. doesn't need to eradicate any.
There we go. That was it.
Oh, that's one of the wildest ones I've ever heard, and I'm glad.
He got really heated. So
Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
will.
is.
Yeah, I will.
He's good at it. We need it because
I am good at it because you know how I am with vaccine safety and how just livid I got whenever I found out that the COVID shot was part of the childhood, the whatever
childhood vaccine schedule.
vaccine schedule. There you go. Sorry, my brain's elsewhere. But let's say that they probably have run this study. They probably have this information, and they don't want the public to know it.
That's right.
Well, that's basically what he said.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
He
Okay.
said-
If they did it,
we're
they probably
never
did.
going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I get it, and I don't want, no one wants their child to have issues. But at some point, if we all adopt the idea of not getting vaccines, then I think it becomes a problem going that way too.
Mm-hmm.
So just as just kind of the guy saying something that's not necessarily going to be what you guys want to necessarily hear. Well, Doc might. He's polio.
I haven't even started firing him up yet.
But I think that if that study did come out, and if it quite literally said getting all these vaccine, it's a 1 in 4 chance that your kid's going to get this or this or this or this or this or a combination of this and this and this and this.
The vaccine manufacturers are not going to let that happen because they know that their vaccines are a problem. And they just keep pushing them out because they've got shareholders.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the public safety of the United States if everybody stopped getting vaccinated. That's what I was saying.
So you're giving a pro, like, we need vaccines because all these things could start happening? Is that what you're basically?
Yeah, so we could revert back to a time of people getting
You're still manning
polio
why vaccines are important. So let me touch on it, and then Dr. Roy, you come in.
Yeah.
RFK has been very critical of vaccines for a long time. Before he even ran for president and all that, he wrote books. Part of the thing, all that stuff had to do with that. And what he has really fine-tuned lately is, I'm not saying get rid of vaccines. What I want is every time we put a vaccine into someone, into a child or into a person, we need to track what it's doing or what it's not doing. We need data. We need to know that it's better than we need an unvaccinated group. Unfortunately, we have people that will willingly do that. I think there's a lot of unvaccinated people that are homeschooled. There's Amish. There's Mennonite. All these.
There's religious.
There's religious reasons. There's people that are just skeptics because they've been lied to about mRNA and COVID shots.
Yep.
So there's no better time to do that than right now. So I don't even care why they haven't done it in the past at this point. I'm just saying what I think RFK is trying to bring to the table is, from today forward, we need a way to track these things and compare A to B. And let's look at cancer rates amongst the unvaccinated versus vaccinated. Let's look at lupus. Yeah. Let's look at autism. And yes, there are some people in the Mennonites and Amish that have autism, but is it much lower rates? Is it 1 in 12 or is it 1 in 500? I mean, let's look at the numbers and compare.
So instead of me being your steel man or straw man or whatever you want to call me, I think that there probably are some that are fine. If we went back to like our 30 that we had when we were younger, you and I, versus the 72 or 98 now or whatever it ends up being, the problem is that you're probably not going to be able to find enough people that only take this vaccine or only take a combination of these 2 vaccines or these 30 vaccines versus these 70 vaccines versus I think you've got too large a pool to try to get enough data. You might be able to get vaccinated or unvaccinated, but my thought is there's probably half or 1/3 of the vaccine schedule that's probably the good ones to take, the ones you should take. And then there's probably half to 2/3 that really cause more problems than keeping you, cause more deaths or injury than what they're actually protecting you against. And I think that's what we can. Yes, sir.
Yeah. If, some of these diseases are not available, and obviously we would not, if we stopped giving polio vaccines today, we would not have an outbreak of polio because the polio virus has been eradicated from the Western Hemisphere, and there are only two countries that still have active polio. That's Pakistan and Afghanistan. So we have done the deal with polio. And, if we stopped vaccinating people for polio, we would probably never get polio in here.
Well, I'll tell you what.
And the same, I'm not done with
this.
Ahead. I could go on for half an hour, but the same thing goes with other types of diseases. On the other hand, there are bacterial diseases that are in the country that are living off other animals, that it would be very easy if we stopped, for example, vaccinating for some of those things. I haven't seen a case of mumps in years, and I think we could stop doing mumps. We've got a few cases of measles, so I think that's probably wise to keep there. Same goes with rubella. Rubella is still around, and if a healthy person gets rubella, that's not a big deal. But if a fetus in utero gets rubella, it's going to be born with a lot of problems. So you still need to go for rubella. But some of these bacterial things are still hanging around, and like pneumonia and pneumococcus is still in the air, and people get it, and people die. That's the number one cause from pneumonia is pneumococcus, and we probably need to continue to vaccinate people for that. We don't need to vaccinate every person over the age of 60 with that, though.
Yeah, my immediate response, my gut just says, you and I received probably roughly the same amount of vaccines, I imagine. We're not that far off in age. Dr. Roy has probably in his childhood schedule had many fewer than what we had, just generally. But he's probably, I know you've had flu vaccines, you've had other vaccines that I haven't done since. Yeah. Here's what I would ask. Where is the data that shows the kids with 72 vaccines are better off than you and I? And what did the vaccines that went from what you and I had to what they had made them healthier?
That's I was getting ready to go to that exact thing because I just asked Grok when, because I couldn't remember the year. You probably knew the year. November 14th, 1986 is when the vaccine manufacturers could no longer have any type of repercussions back on them. They couldn't be sued for any health issues or whatever. Yep. So I think the vaccine schedule before 86, I would probably believe in. Those
well, there was direct repercussions if you injured someone,
right? So whatever they came to the conclusion, and they would take things if there were just a few 100%. Issues, So pre that, I think,
and then look at when obesity and all these other chronic illnesses started hitting us. I remember being in high school, and we had a couple of heavier kids, and we had maybe super obese kid in town. Nothing like what you see now. Nothing like
not every
nothing like no 400-pound kids in our school ever.
No,
right?
Okay, and so I'm not saying that's caused by vaccines. It
combination of food, who knows what, but
it could be any number of things. Come back to the point though: is why hasn't there been massive outbreaks of the things that they've put in that vaccine schedule that has affected you and me? Like, what did they not give us that have put us at great risk compared to what our kids are getting today? That's the missing link that I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, why did we go from 30 or so pre-1986 or whenever, whatever that thing was, to 72, and yet our health continues to decline? That's something you can't ignore. You just can't unsee it. You can't unthink it. I can't anyway.
Yeah. And, the vaccine makers are going to say, oh, it's something else that's causing that. We're keeping them from having, this disease or that disease, but they're eating the, bad cereals. They're eating.
Well, you've been
sugar.
a doctor for 50 years, Doc.
51.
So tell me what you remember hearing in the medical literature and that has caused us to more than double the vaccine schedule. I mean, what was this major outbreak that we had to add another thing or another thing to prevent? What was the signal? What were we?
Well, the first one was Haemophilus.
When did that? Do you know the date that came out?
I don't know the date of when the Haemophilus
Travis will be on that.
vaccine.
No, I already have it because I have a list here of everything post that year that we were just talking about. So, but you continue, or I can tell you.
Well, just tell what year was that?
So Haemophilus was added to the schedule in '89.
In 89.
So they can't be sued for the vaccine, just first and foremost.
But the thing about Haemophilus was before we had a vaccine, kids were dying of Haemophilus. And what happens is they get a sore throat and their epiglottis, which is right up above their trachea and their vocal cords, swells up to double the size of their thumb and strangles them. And I can't get this out of my mind. The 2-year-old that comes in with Haemophilus who had a cardiac arrest because he couldn't breathe, and he was put on a ventilator, and he was brain dead. And we had to go explain to his parents why he was brain dead, and why we were going to take him off the ventilator. And I did that more than once in 3 months. I was only on pediatrics in 3 months when I was a medical student. And we had at least 2 or 3 kids with serious Haemophilus at all times during that period of time. And these kids died. And I think Haemophilus is a good one because it's an example of a bacteria that stays in the area. And, your dogs may have it, your cat may have it.
Well, to your credit, you've talked about Haemophilus a lot. I just asked Grok. I said, how many kids per year get Haemophilus pre and post-vaccine? And pre-vaccine era, prior 1985 to 1988, approximately 20,000 children under the age of 5 in the U.S. developed serious Haemophilus infections annually, including meningitis, pneumonia, epiglottitis, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And post-vaccine, United States, after the induction of the vaccine, it's dropped to 99%. Only 30 cases. So again, just saying, you're right. I'm not saying we get rid of all vaccines.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, if something comes to the surface and you can put a vaccine and it stops it, and it, you still need to know what the side effects potentially of it are, because if you saved, it doesn't say how many people died, how many kids died per year.
The death rate was pretty high. It was probably 35 or 40%.
What was death rate? Well, anyway, so I mean, you still have to say, okay, well, let's look at the people that didn't get a Haemophilus shot, and the ones that do. They didn't get Haemophilus, but at 99% less rate.
Yeah.
But they have these other things in common, maybe that they did get that might have been in that vaccine. Not saying that's the case.
The one that you hate the most is the hepatitis B, and hepatitis B. After we started vaccinating newborns, the number of cases went down by 99%. And the kids that were born and infected with hepatitis B before that, their lives were significantly shortened, and they could pass the virus along to other people if they had sex with them, if they traded blood in any way, if they, shot up, if they bled on somebody. Kids fall down and bleed all the time, and it gets on them. So, and believe me, hepatitis B can be passed if you've got a wound.
So all these things pre-vaccine is saying somewhere between 400 and 1,000 deaths per year.
Yeah.
For Haemophilus related with meningitis and all these different things that are associated with that. Yeah. And post-vaccine, based on what I'm seeing here, what had to go down significantly, just the number of deaths.
Yeah.
Still can't see it. Anyway,
if they had 30 cases, figure that that 25 or 30% of them died. So of the 30 or so, you might get 14 or 15 that died after that. So it's significant.
Yeah, they're saying
hepatitis B and Haemophilus are the big ones.
They're saying death rates have gotten to near zero.
Yeah.
For these things. So again, I'm going to give the vaccine makers and everyone that's ever given their kid. I mean, we got this one right.
Yeah.
Kudos, right? That's perfect.
And the same for hepatitis B. And hepatitis B, it's not just turning yellow and being sick for a couple of weeks. It stays in your body, and it's the number one cause of cancer of the liver. So it can be a big deal. So I'm a big I know you guys don't like immunizing, newborns.
No, I'm not.
But that's
not day one.
That's one of the ones that probably showed that, because it went down by 99%.
Well, so Rand Paul actually did that. I think he did it in a Senate hearing, basically, because he was lambasted and shamed and everything for not giving the child the hepatitis B shot on day one, right at the time, or whatever. He waited a year, or whatever the thing was, but it was his choice, and it was him and his wife's choice, and then whatever. So again, I think we're not saying, I'm not necessarily saying that they should. I've never said they shouldn't get a hepatitis shot. I said within minutes of them being born, show me the numbers, show me the data as to how many kids that potentially saves versus waiting a year. And because there are people that just won't let their kid have the thing, right? And so let's look at the numbers and the percentages. That's all I'm asking for. Because, I think
I don't know that I think the number of people who either don't vaccinate their children at all for hepatitis B or wait to 1 year is going to be so low that it's insignificant.
Well,
you really can't come out with that. But what we do know is that if you give those kids immunization at that time, they will not, even though their mothers may not have hepatitis B that is detectable, because it takes 3 or 4 months before you start having symptoms.
Yeah, we've talked about that pretty good.
And so that's another one. But some of the other crap that they throw out there, and they're mixing vaccines together. This is one of the things that we never did back in the olden days. You had a shot for one thing and that was it. But now they're putting together diphtheria and tetanus and all the other
We've
ones.
got some clips. I got a clip here. I'm definitely hope to get to it today. It's just about informed consent.
I have only seen one case of diphtheria in 51 years.
Wow.
And that's because we were vaccinating for it. But before that, there were outbreaks everywhere. They had to run. That's the only reason the Iditarod is held. It's saying that the sled dogs brought the serum up to Nome, Alaska, to break down a diphtheria outbreak. So,
well, you just informed a lot of people. Most of the audience probably did not know that was the reason for the Iditarod.
Yeah, it's
Travis, did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
yeah,
there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
This isn't the video that I'm going to start trying to get you fired up, but I think
you are going to fire me up.
I think I haven't even got there yet, but I think this might be one that will probably make you question. It's just going to question some of the things that we've talked about. And again, this is not a gotcha.
Well,
this is just because everyone
before you start
I start firing you up.
Yeah, before you do that.
We might need to pat him down first.
I know that the rate of cancer is 2 or 3 times as much as it was when I was a young physician. But the amount of lung cancer that we're seeing is much, much less than it was when I was a young physician.
Because doctors aren't saying you should smoke cigarettes anymore.
No, they're not. And, at the VA...
Pack a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah. At the VA in Birmingham, I would have, of my 20 patients at any given time, I would have at least 3 or 4 with lung cancer of some sort. And when I got to be a pulmonary fellow, I diagnosed lung cancer probably 3 or 4 times a week in these people that I would bronchoscope. And they'd say, he's got something on his lung, can you scope him? And I'd scope him because I was doing like 10 bronchoscopies a week.
Wow.
I talked to a young pulmonologist who was he was 2 years behind me, so he was a third-year resident when I was finishing up my fellowship. And he and I were talking, and this was back in the 90s. And he said, Roy, we don't do near as many bronchoscopies as we used to do at the VA in Birmingham. We would do 10, 12 a week each, and there were 2 of us there. And now he says I probably do a bronchoscopy every couple of weeks, one. And I said, it's because people don't smoke anymore. Mm-hmm. But 1/3 of all lung cancer is in non-smokers. And it's a type that is increasing, and we don't know why. It's adenocarcinoma of the lung. But people who don't smoke can get that one, and there's more and more of that than there used to be. So now, piss me off.
I don't know.
I think that's more due to industry. Like if I do a little sidebar there, I think a lot of the crap that came out of like all of the power plants, all that kind of stuff, might have had something to do with that.
Chemtrails.
Chemtrails. There you go.
Chemtrails.
Well, I mean, it's environmental. Environmental.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, that's the thing. We need to really.
For all we know, it's a bacteria, and it's been communicated by coughing.
Well, it's kind of funny, the signal that we're dancing around all the time, Doc, and we're listening to the people that are talking more and more about ivermectin and the different alternative treatments that aren't radiation and standard medical recommendations. Is the things that they're treating with are anti-parasitic. They're anti-parasitic.
How about that?
So if you have cancer and you decide, or chemo didn't work for you, radiation didn't work for you, or you want to do something before you get to that point, maybe you have to wait too long to try this thing, and you hear, hey, people are trying, and I'm not telling anyone to do this, nor is Dr. Roy, but people are doing ivermectin and fenbendazole, and their cancer is going away. I don't know. Maybe there's a signal there that people should pay attention to.
Yeah.
And again, this is just me not recommending anybody do it. If I were to be, if Dr. Roy were to give me, I have something going on, Dr. Roy looks at me and says, you got lung cancer or whatever, and you need to see oncologist, I'm going to say, okay, I probably will do that as soon as I can, but I'm going to start this other regimen tomorrow because I've heard so many things about it. What could it harm?
Right.
Not going to harm me.
That's the thing. It's not going to harm you.
Yep.
You take vitamin D, you take ivermectin,
get out in the sunshine.
You take fenbendazole, you get out in the sunshine, and you get some exercise.
Yep.
And that's not going to hurt you. None of that's going to hurt you.
No. Okay, let's see if we can piss Dr. Roy off. Let's go.
Let's
do it.
This might not be the one, but we'll see.
CBS is doing a report. Of course, it's from 20 years ago. That tells you that the flu shot. Well, this is what they tell you.
Probably before
Watch this. Hold on to your
companies
owned. This is going to blow your mind.
Here's what scientists have found. Over 20 years, the percentage of seniors getting flu shots increased sharply from 15% to 65%.
Wow. So then the seniors who are dying from flu should go way down, right?
No.
It stands to reason that flu deaths among the elderly should have taken a dramatic dip, making an X graph like this. Instead, flu deaths among the elderly continue to climb.
Whoa!
It was hard to believe, so researchers at the National Institutes of Health
I
said
knew this.
Hard to believe.
I knew
So then
this.
researchers at the corrupt National Institute of Health, NIH, did a study, which they then suppressed and buried. But CBS got their hands on it. And here's what they found.
to do a study adjusting for all kinds of factors that could be masking the true benefits of the shots. But no matter how they crunched the numbers, they got the same disappointing result. Flu shots had not reduced deaths among the elderly. It's not what health officials hoped to find. NIH wouldn't let us interview the study's lead author. So we went to Boston and found the only co-author not employed by NIH, Dr. Tom Reichert.
We realized that we had incendiary material.
Dr. Reichert says they thought their study would prove vaccinations had helped.
We were trying to do something mainstream, that's for sure.
Were you surprised?
Astonished.
Did you check the data a couple of times?
So they thought their study was going to reveal that flu shots actually had a big benefit and reduced deaths among seniors. That's what they thought that their study was going to show. Just, right? But so they actually did study the flu shot. And what did they find out?
Sure.
Well, even more than that, we've looked at other countries now, and the same is true.
That study, soon to be published, finds the same poor results in Australia, France, Canada, and the UK. And other new research stokes the idea that decades of promoting flu shots in seniors and the billions spent haven't had the desired result. The current head of national immunizations confirms CDC is now looking at new strategies, but stops short of calling the present policy a failure.
There's an active dialogue into how we can do better to prevent influenza and its complications in the elderly.
So what's an older person to do? The CDC says they should still get their flu shots.
You should still get it. The CDC says you should still get your flu shot.
Yeah.
Nope.
Hey, still take your fentanyl. Don't stop your fentanyl just because, even though that we're looking into it.
And if you can, you should combine it with your new booster for COVID. If you can.
Yeah.
And
This might blow your
RSV
mind.
too.
CBS is doing a report. Of course, it's from 20 years ago.
Okay, that was it.
Oh, my
That,
bad.
that
Yeah. Well, and that doesn't piss me off at all.
No, I didn't think that would, except for
because
people still get flu shots every year, and I'm just like,
and people are required to get flu shots. People, any person who works in healthcare is required to get a flu shot, or they get fired.
and Dr. Roy or Travis, tell me why Chad doesn't like that. And it's not my body, my choice.
Yeah.
Why do I have such a problem with that?
Because it doesn't help.
Well,
Yeah.
partially, but also we have mRNA conversation again coming
Yeah.
in, and they're not telling us everything that they're putting into a flu shot,
Yeah.
and now they're putting COVID vaccines and combining them in the mRNA with flu shots.
They're putting the COVID mRNA, influenza, and RSV all in one shot. Hell, it's convenient. You get one shot instead of 3. Yeah, but it doesn't help. And the deaths from RSV are still going up in spite of the people who are getting the shots. I guarantee you that's happening. And that's why this old man's not getting any of those shots anymore.
And not telling your patients. So I got a good ad, another RFK ad that I think we'll really like because he does a great job on the ad front. But I also have I had this one, I think, for Dr. Was this the one that I thought might start making you mad? I got to get there. So
I want to see him fuming. Smoke out of the ears.
You're probably not going to see.
not going to get you there. This
I want him
time.
to drop an F-bomb on you.
Nah.
So let's talk about informed consent a minute because we're talking about vaccines. I'm not telling you, Dr. Roy's not telling you not to get your vaccines. Just telling you to do research, have an open mind, look into things, figure it out for yourself if you need to. I thought this was a video. Maybe it's not. So I have something popped up here. Okay.
Let me show that.
Let me look at it real quick. Okay. Yeah, so the thing I have on my screen right now is basically talking about estimated mRNA products in particular vaccines. Mm-hmm. So it's got Moderna, Pfizer, and all these different ones, and it has the key examples and focus areas of which of these products are mRNA. And again, mRNA technology is new technology. It's something me and Dr. Roy have been talking about ad nauseum. It's causing our bodies to react in ways that is very unnatural. There's spike proteins and different things that are going on from the COVID vaccines, which are mRNA. We don't have enough information to know if it's just the mRNA COVID vaccines or if it's because they are mRNA and has nothing to do. There's not enough information to make an informed decision right now, I believe, in any of these things. So take a look at the list if you're able to look at it. I thought it was a video. It's not a video. So I'll get to the ad I don't want to get to because I think it's pretty fantastic. But that's the list. They might be mRNAing you in vaccines and you don't even know it. So that will lead into informed consent, which is actually maybe the clip that I should get to right now, if I can find it. Should be right here. No. Okay, let's listen to the ad. I'll look for the clip that's talking about that after we listen to this.
heard voices to the campaign trail and elevated them all the way up to President Trump. From the moment my kids were born, I have taught them the truth about artificial food dyes because our government was doing nothing to protect them from these harmful ingredients. Now we are entering a new era. An era where we don't need to worry about artificial food dyes on the frosting of a birthday cake, the breakfast cereals served at schools, our children's Halloween bucket or Easter basket, the chips and the sports drinks being served after a game. We now have made history together. And now we have intellectual honesty coming out of the FDA, focused on looking at updated science on food additives that American food companies are not using in other countries. This is a win for every American who doesn't know the truth about the food industry. For all the mothers, the fathers, the doctors, and the teachers out there struggling for answers on our children's health problems when they can be solved with food. Because you know what? Food is medicine. Thank you very much.
Now, I have never seen that on any of the TV stations.
Yeah,
you probably won't see it on TV stations.
So anybody interested in that, I believe this is a Facebook reel, and if you find MAHA Action, I'm following it, and it shows different things like this. So basically, little press releases from the MAHA movement, RFK, and whatever. But it gives you little sound bites to think about and to share that, to me, they're well done, and it tells you things that you're just not going to learn from our media, unfortunately. No more. Anybody got anything else to add on that? I'm still looking for this other.
I have wondered for a long time why we make it, and when we want to sell it to the EU, we change it to be more healthy, and we give it to our people in its fully terrible form for years, for decades. Like I've always wondered that.
That's money, push money and hush money. Yeah, they say to the people, "Yeah, we know it's."
Is it cheaper to make? Because it doesn't.
Well, it's not any cheaper to make, but they're making money by selling it.
Well, the food coloring and stuff has. I've heard several different theories on it. Is that what you asked about?
I guess it's more like a visual thing.
It's a visual thing. Kids see it. It's bright. It's shiny. It's colorful, and it's
it's got a lot of sugar in it.
It's marketing.
Yeah. Well, it probably has sugar in it over in the EU as well. It's just the food dyes.
Not nearly as much.
Not nearly as much. Yeah. Why do you think that people who can't tolerate bread in this country, I'm pointing at him.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't sugar related. That was like gluten related. That was the
it's additives.
The crap that they put in the flour and
it's preservatives. Like you can buy it.
All these people say, "Oh, I'm gluten intolerant." No, you're intolerant to all the other shit that they put in the bread.
You can't buy a loaf of bread in Europe, Travis, and it won't last a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can take out any bread probably and have it on your counter for a month or more here, and it doesn't turn moldy. So the bacteria is not even starting to break down that thing that's supposed to be food. If you put any natural food out onto the ground, within days it's gonna start deteriorating, and the bugs are gonna eat it. Whatever. It doesn't happen with bread. I mean, it doesn't start deteriorating.
Yeah.
And that's what the chemicals do. They're preservatives. It's the same thing they spray on a lot of stuff to keep it around.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I understand the concept. Again, the science behind it is, well, we need to bring fruit because fruit's healthy, and we can't get fruit in the middle of the wintertime, so we have to bring it over from Argentina or wherever it is that it's coming from. And to do that, you need to preserve it. You need to try to keep it around for as long as it can.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be in a container and rotting, so let's keep it around. That sounds like a good idea. At the end of the day, though, is it really a good idea? It's the trade-offs.
I can remember when I was a small child and it was winter, you couldn't get fresh fruit. You couldn't get fresh apples. You couldn't get fresh
certain stuff
oranges.
In season, out of season. They actually had different
none
seasons.
Of that stuff.
I remember that when I was a kid. It was still that way. No, sorry, we can't do watermelons right now. They're out of season.
Well, watermelons are a different
thing.
I
was just making, but I mean, I think strawberries or blueberries. I can't remember. There were a lot of things that you just couldn't buy all the time.
Yeah. Well, some of the strawberries are grown in California, and it never gets cold enough there to mess them up. Because we used to get.
It's because it's hell.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Because what?
Because it's hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't get cold enough over there in California because it's hell. Anyway, that was terrible. That was just.
But
that wasn't a very good one.
I remember this when I was in the military. We had a big deal with all the other Air Force bases that had ICBMs, and they would come out to California where we were and would practice their wares here. But one of the other things they did, it was in March, and they would always take back literally truckloads of strawberries to North and South Dakota, to Montana, to Wyoming, where all the other ICBM places were. We were the only one that was in reasonable weather. And I remember them loading literally a flatbed truck full of strawberries onto a KC-130 to fly it back to, Montana or North Dakota. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Hang on a second here. Okay. So I'm gonna just go ahead and try to get Dr. Roy fired up.
Please do.
Before I do, we've shared a couple. I've shared a couple clips of Dr. Suzanne Humphries, and I wanted to give Dr. Roy basically her credentials prior to saying these things, and to see how he responds to it. She was interviewed on Rogan, and she's been making the rounds here pretty recently. But she's a board certified nephrologist, former internist with over 2 decades of experience in conventional medicine. Having worked with hospital systems from 1989 to 2011, a bold and independent thinker, she left the hospital position in good standing to pursue deeper truths about health, immunity, and medical history.
Yeah.
She's co-author of several things, and she's a vaccine skeptic, is what I'll go ahead and say that way. And I'm going to play this clip. Oh, man, what did I do?
Oh, no, what did you do?
I'll figure it out. Just take me a second. I had it queued up, and I hit the wrong
kill we
switch.
suck again.
Dr. Roy, can you take care of him? If he's trying to make fun of me. Here we go. Let's go.
He's too far away for me to backslap him.
I did that on purpose.
He moved away, so he was safer.
Yeah.
Here we go.
When you look at the historical timeline of polio, what do you think caused it to go to essentially?
Don't you make any noise over there?
Okay.
You don't think vaccinations had anything to do with that?
Well, it's not what I think, because that's the thing. Like, look, when I got into this, I didn't say, I want to argue that vaccines are great. I said, look, I don't care. I didn't have skin in the game. I didn't have vaccine-injured kids. I couldn't have cared less about it, essentially, except that it was something in front of me and it didn't make sense. So I thought, wherever the truth falls, that's what I'm going to talk about. So what I say is that what the facts line up to show you is that polio is still here. Polio is still alive and well. Polio is called different things today.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the 1940s, 1950s, the criteria for diagnosing polio were completely different to the year that the vaccine was introduced. The playing field, the goalposts, everything was changed, so that despite the fact that there was more paralytic polio in the years after that vaccine was introduced, they were able to show a complete cascading drop of paralytic polio simply because of the way they changed the definitions of what polio is and what could cause it. And they started testing for the virus, where before they would never test for the virus. And when they started testing for the virus later, what they would find that people had Guillain-Barré syndrome, they didn't have virus, or they had Coxsackie virus or echovirus, or they were lead poisoned or mercury poisoned, which was the mercury and lead were the leading treatments of the day, including bloodletting. They were telling people to take your cigarette and put a little bit of arsenic in there. It's good for your lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were literally blowing smoke up people's butts. Like that's where the term comes from. Because if you want to Google that now, you'll see that there's an instrument that does it.
Yeah.
So,
that's funny. I hadn't heard that
the
one
polio story, where to even begin. And so There's about 70 pages. And so that became my obsession. So when people said, what about polio? And I started digging this up, I went deep into it.
Did you dive into pesticides?
Yes, you have to dive into pesticides. Because the tonnage of production of DDT absolutely mirrored the diagnosis for polio in the days. And the countries that still make DDT today is where we're still seeing this paralytic polio situation happen.
And also, weren't the first cases, did they break out in a rural community?
The first cases of polio, yes.
In the United
very
States,
good.
paralytic
Yes.
polio.
Yes, it was out in the countryside. Well, and that was probably more because of the sheep and cow dipping. So arsenic, you have to look at arsenic, you have to look at the mercurials, you have to look at the calcium arsenate, lead arsenate sprays that were put on trees. But what you're talking about in particular, they would call the cow disease. They would go out in the family, when you would go to the house, they'd say, all the kids have the cow disease, what the cows had before. Well, what were they doing? They would have this trenches. You talk to farmers, even today. Oh, yeah, we had trenches. We would just walk them straight through, and I'd be soaked with the stuff by the end of the day.
The one that everybody points to, we don't have crippled kids.
Did that fire you up?
No.
Okay. Well, again,
you got to try harder, Chad.
We've talked about polio a lot, and again, you've used it a little. Let me just tell you what I feel like your pushback has been. I'm not really trying to fire you up. I just wanted to see what your reaction would be, because I felt like one of your pushes was polio was a great vaccine because polio is no longer around. And all I'm saying is, based on this, I'm not saying she's right, but she is published, and I feel like if the vaccine makers believed her to be wrong or whatever, they would be suing her. She probably would have lawsuits lining up against her. Maybe not. But again, it's just a counter narrative.
Well, she's too small to have the.
That's fair. But she's talking to Rogan.
Vaccine manufacturers
talking to Rogan. She's probably got 15 million people seeing that.
But that's the thing. They have changed the criteria for polio, and we're still seeing it, and it's now has a different name.
Called different things. Yep.
Yeah, and nobody ever isolated the polio virus and tested for it in all these kids that had so-called polio back in the 1950s. So I think this is probably one of the things where they developed a vaccine and people started getting better, but they have different things. Coxsackie virus can do just the same thing that polio, and I'm not being a shit.
Who came up with that? Who came up with that name?
Yeah.
Man,
can you say that again?
Candy cane over there's got Coxsackie virus, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is a type of virus.
I'm sure it is.
I'd be like, you got what? Ew.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that was called pregnancy.
What does that look like? What does that look like?
Yeah, Coxsackie virus is common, and it's a respiratory virus, just like polio was. You know, about 85 or 90% of the kids who got polio had, a mild case and never had paralytic polio.
Mm-hmm. And paralytic polio, for those that don't understand the lingo, can you
yeah,
is that paralysis?
That's paralysis of the muscles of the body, and sometimes it was so serious that the diaphragm was infected, and the people were put into iron lungs because we didn't have respirators then. And you'll see old pictures from the 1940s and 50s of 100 kids in an iron lung, kids and adults in iron lungs. And we had guys that we saw in Birmingham who had residuals from what they called polio, who were in their 60s, 70s, and were still on a type of respirator. Not necessarily the iron lung, but there were other types that they were on. And they said, oh, he had polio back in the 1950s. But it's not the case. The viruses, the adenoviruses, the Coxsackie viruses, can cause that, but 9 times out of 10, all they cause is a respiratory infection. But we're still getting kids that get paralyzed. And generally, if they recover, some of them recovered completely, but others ended up with a withered leg. I had, there was a woman who was in my medical school class who was in braces up to her hips and going around on crutches because she had polio. We had 2 or 3 others.
Is that what Forrest Gump had? Was that what he had before he broke out? But before he broke out of his walking assist,
it was. Yeah.
So the reason why I'm bringing, and I didn't get the type of response I wanted from Dr. Roy.
No.
But the reason why I'm bringing, I know you're evolving. I love it, man.
Yeah.
So the reason why I would like sharing people like Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, and I'm going to show you another one. Maybe it'll fire you up a little bit.
Well, she's got the credentials.
Well, but just even without the credentials, Doc, here's what I want to emphasize. I'm not saying credentials aren't important at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she's diagnosing anything. What I'm saying is she's doing research, she's looking at data,
Yeah.
she's raising the right questions.
Absolutely.
And demanding the answers that people in science should be doing. Right. And so that to me is more of the signal. Like, let's listen to, I'm reading all these things, here's what I'm saying. This is what you and I are trying to do. Right. We're trying to sort through the noise out there and try to figure things that are like important for people to know, and then asking, putting pressure on HHS and RFK, like, why aren't we bringing this to the surface? Why aren't journalists talking about it more? Why aren't we talking about it every day? And that's part of what we're trying to do here.
Right.
So go ahead.
I was going to say that we don't see the number of paralytic cases that they used to in the 1950s, but there still are some, people with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and for all we know, Guillain-Barré is a result of a Coxsackie virus, and these people, we used to see them all the time, and it was about 1 out of 80,000 that got sick, and they ended up being on a respirator, and after a few months or weeks, they would start getting mobility back, and they had to be rehabilitated, and they would move around. But
I'm going to have to start asking all my friends every time I see them, including Travis, hey, do you have a Coxsackie virus right now? Do you know?
Do you need tested?
Well,
what is the test for the Coxsackie virus?
There are physical things that you can find.
Oh,
if I look in somebody's mouth, and they have little red spots on their,
I know what caused that Coxsackie virus.
If you're going to tell me to pull my pants down, I don't know that. I don't know if I've gone along with that.
It has nothing to do with your goodies. But I can see that on the soft palate, and say,
I know how that got in.
Yeah, the reason you're sick is because you've got Coxsackie virus.
Too much Coxsackie.
You guys are such.
You said it was in the throat.
It's been Chad. It's been Chad today more than me. I kept a straight face, and then he got all Coxsackie over there.
He said the name is Coxsackie, and like, open your mouth and let me look at your tongue.
And it's spelled with an X.
Whatever.
It's Coxsackie.
I can't control the spelling. I just know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Hey, English is like 3 different languages. The X could just be like an S. It's just pluralized.
Let's try to get through this one here. I had it said get more fired up. I don't know if it's going to fire him up or not. Let's go.
Past 3 years of my life when it came up in my professional life, and my current opinion about vaccinations is that they have never been safe. Never has there been a safe vaccine. Never will there be a safe vaccine, and it is not possible to have a safe vaccine. The reasoning for that is that the actual process of vaccination defies the natural function of the immune system of living beings. It thwarts the immune system into a balance that's very unnatural, and that leaves it susceptible to more things than just what you've maybe vaccinated supposedly for. Putting a disease matter into a body and thinking that the manner of which it's going in, i.e. usually through a muscle, through the skin, using a very unnatural thing, a needle, combined with all the chemicals and antibiotics and things that the manufacturing companies may not even know about at the time that they're being injected into a muscle. There's no possible way that that can be safe. Now, when you're bypassing the normal immune system by putting this disease matter into a muscle, you are stimulating yet another abnormal response at the site of the injection, pooling of all sorts of metals and things that call in the immune cells in this very unnatural way. And the result that these manufacturers or designers of vaccines often look for is simply an antibody, which is one small thing in the cascade of immunity that is so incredibly elegant they probably cannot appreciate, obviously don't appreciate, if calling a simple antibody, which is highly unpredictable, immunity is insanity. If indeed it is such a miraculous product, wouldn't we be noticing how miraculous it is? Are they saying that we are just too stupid to notice that this is killing people and maiming people, that we're too stupid to notice that it's miraculous? You know, I think that is a lot of the argument. We're just too stupid to notice how miraculous this is. So to protect everybody, they're going to give it to us anyway.
Well,
why must such a wonderful product be forced upon people since the beginning of vaccination? If people were really seeing each other dropping dead of smallpox and they were really seeing each other being saved by a smallpox vaccine, the line would be out of town, you know, to get it. That's never been the case. The history books really show that the people that were vaccinated were among the sickest, that many children were dying after smallpox vaccinations, that they were developing terrible ulcerations, beautiful, perfect babies, you know, forced into smallpox vaccines, either dying or developing terrible, terrible diseases. And the diseases are often said, oh, that would have happened anyway. But parents who watch this happen time and again know otherwise. So those of us who actually notice the science is not backing up vaccination, those of us who notice that people are being maimed and killed by vaccinations, those of us who have experienced our own vaccine reactions are categorically thought to be mad, despite the fact that we've actually studied it. You know, none of my colleagues in the past studied vaccines, yet they still would think that the sound bites that they heard over and over and over the years about vaccines being safe and effective trumped any book knowledge that I may have attained and tried to discuss with them. It's baffling. It's like the minds have been sucked into this paradigm so deeply, and it's not just the minds of these doctors, but it's the safety net, and it's the comfort zone, and it's the rewards that they're getting as a result of all they're doing. And the rewards are not watching people get healthy. The rewards are monetary and the rewards are power. That's it.
Well, let me have it.
Oh, this was all you.
Yeah.
Maybe I fired you up a little bit more.
Not so much.
Okay.
But
it was very fiery.
She's got a lot of thoughts.
She's provocative.
And she hasn't really offered any
her book is very lined up. You can, do some research on
any things on that. But why would they pass a law that makes vaccine manufacturers free of any problems?
100%.
Why would they pass a law like that? And actually, the problem with that is that if somebody does have a vaccine reaction, they can apply for money from the federal people, and they will get paid for it, but they won't be able to sue the manufacturers. And that's what the law says. So maybe we need to drop that law back and see what happens after that. I would not want to be an investor in Pfizer or any of the others if they were going to do that, because they are pretty soon going to find that that Pfizer will go out of business.
I'm wondering if some of the stock drop that occurred, kind of a realignment. I feel like a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
You're talking about tariffs and that having an effect on the market, and if it did, but also I think of some of the tech stocks, and obviously tech stocks are all over the place because of AI.
Yeah.
But you're looking at the pharma and medical stuff that has been reliable over the years.
Yeah.
Some of that probably got readjusted, I imagine, in a day.
I don't really know. Yeah, the only thing I've really noticed is that Tesla went down for a while.
Yeah.
And it's coming
Because
back.
Elon is bad.
He's, well, they used to say orange man bad. It's, you know.
Well, it was Trump derangement syndrome is what I call something, but TDS also is Tesla derangement syndrome. So
Yeah,
it kind of is in the same alignment. A little good news, I could show this clip of Trump, but basically, did you hear they're ending gain of function research funding?
Mm-hmm.
So just in case any of our audience, I'm sure probably everyone that is paying attention to this podcast knows the Wuhan lab leak theory versus the open market theory.
Yeah.
It's one of the early signals that we saw and we're fighting back against. But basically, the problem with the gain of function research is this COVID virus now probably will be with us forever because gain of function it allows a virus to never truly go away. It just comes back in a different form, maybe not stronger. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of proof saying it's stronger at this point.
You know,
but
polio might be doing the same thing.
100% right.
And,
Polio.
You know, we didn't test for the polio virus in all these people. Who knows? They could have had Coxsackie virus,
Hackensacky virus.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I'm not kidding you guys. There really is.
No, we know there's some Coxsackie virus. That's my wife.
Very Coxsackious.
Yeah.
Well, actually, my wife wouldn't know anymore. But
oh boy. Well, hopefully she doesn't watch. She's not watching
your
the
wife
second
a
hour.
nurse?
But no.
No. Okay.
What?
I thought your wife was a nurse.
No.
I got so many more clips, guys, and there's one that's super long.
Oh, hey, look. Speaking of Coxsackie, there's Dr. Phil.
Yeah, let's listen to this one. This is another RFK ad, I
Dr.
believe.
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a right now crisis. We have malnourished children that are obese.
Yeah.
They're overfed and undernourished.
Yeah.
And this is something that can be solved in one generation. We are poisoning our young people. These are Fruit Loops in Europe. These are Fruit Loops here. You have no idea what's in these.
I don't know how MAHA is going to change the world. I don't know what we can do if we can't get people back to critical thinking.
You can't be telling people what they need to do. If you talk to people about what they deserve and what their children deserve, it's hard for them to push back against that.
Can we get out of that immediate space and actually get this country to invest in something like feeding our children better?
All that's necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. We just need to speak up.
Again, his ads give me goosebumps like no other. Like I don't know why, but
You know that his license was revoked 10
Dr.
years
Phil's?
ago, Dr. Phil.
Oh yeah, he's now purely a podcaster.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day,
He had a TV show for a long time.
He was partners with Oprah for a long time.
And yeah, his license was pulled a while back, and I think
maybe he said the wrong things about the wrong
they
people.
sealed the reasons.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Just like you know,
when you accidentally stab yourself 27
Michelle
times.
Obama's law license was pulled in Illinois, and nobody knows why.
Well, you know, the cancel wave, the culture of silencing people, the golden handcuffs and the golden duct tape.
Yep.
There's two clips here real quick that I want to talk about. Again, I thought they were really interesting. This one, I think this is aligned with the, I'm kind of pushing back on the local media again. If anyone is a part of the, was it Truth Alliance, Truth and Media Alliance or whatever, there's some group of media companies that got together and said, we're going to share the truth, and that way we're going to get rid of malinformation, which all malinformation is truthful information that is inconvenient to a narrative. So it's not bad information. It's just not what people want to hear. Listen to this clip real quick.
Some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias.
To push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Fortunately, some members of the media.
Yeah. So
it is dangerous for our democracy.
Dangerous for our democracy.
Dangerous.
So it's not dangerous.
Danger.
It's not dangerous for media companies to not talk about the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not dangerous for them just to go along with their pharmaceutical companies that are funding them.
Yeah.
And allow them to continue pushing these things and not actually do journalism. I don't even know it gives me cocksackiness. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling like something's developing. That sounds
like something I'm going to call somebody when they cut me off on the Lloyd. You cocksacky.
Oh boy. So I think this is actually a kind of great lead into the malinformation piece, and hopefully this clip's not too long because I know we're running out of time here. I really have probably another hour worth of content. We're not going to go that long.
Don't want us to fall asleep.
Nah, but I think it's important. We're having important conversations and trying to share things with people, and the only way we can get better and improve our narratives is to talk about these things. Let me see when that one's supposed to end here.
While he's doing that, I'll just Doctor, do you know how people say "God bless you" whenever you sneeze?
Uh-huh.
You do know?
Yeah.
You know where it originated?
Yeah, it originated in the 1600s or 1500s. They thought that's how the devil gets
Evil
into
spirits.
your body.
God bless you in this time of weakness when the devil may take possession of your soul.
See that? My side of it was a little more during like the bubonic plague, which would have been around the same time, or would have been a little earlier. But they assumed you were going to die. I think you were sick and going to die because it killed everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you were going to go see your maker. God bless you.
Well, so I don't know what I heard. Maybe mine was the religious side of it. I mean, that's the that children's song "Ring Around the Rosie."
Oh, that thing's sick.
That's about the plague.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies. They used to put posies in their pockets.
Ashes. That's because they burned all the bodies.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a rough one. So there's a lot of nursery rhymes that have a crazy origin that are.
Oh yeah.
They're god awful.
It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring, he bumped his head and he went to bed and he can't get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Died of concussion?
Alcoholism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Died alcoholism.
Fell down, hit his head, and he has a subdural hematoma and he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so part of, Travis, you've talked about a lot of the things that you and your wife are having discussions about that are something you probably wouldn't have done before. One of the things that me and my wife are talking about a lot lately is the defunding of public broadcasting funds, NPR, PBS, and here's what I've told her. And I also have a very good friend that works in that industry, very, very closely in the industry. And my point is if it were truly public broadcasting, then it would be balanced. And you would hear things from both sides. And if there were things from both sides and the government was providing funding for that, I would say fair. Let's go. My point is, let's go. We've got an opportunity at this program, even at this very low level with no budget, to bring up narratives and talk about things that local media will not talk about.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't the government be able to give us some funding to buy a computer and to promote ads or whatever? Not even if I'm not saying I should even be in front of the mic. Maybe I'm not the best person, but the questions that we're trying to get to the bottom of and the information we're trying to share is relevant. So let's listen to this clip, and I think that it goes back to the malinformation piece and why I think the defunding is okay by me.
Maybe wrong, but this group of people, definitely Fauci, we're talking
Jillian
about
Michaels on
what it would
Rogan.
take to get a global vaccine program. Fauci says probably going to take a pandemic, and this is like 5 months before COVID. Not that, just to put my tin hat on and roll myself in tin foil and jump all the way down the rabbit hole. But then Avril Haines said, well, what are we going to do about misinformation at this event that she'd put on shortly after that? And he said that's where they came up with the Trusted News Initiative right in time.
Well, not only that,
for COVID.
They came up with a new term, and that term is malinformation.
Ah.
Do you know what malinformation is?
Yeah.
Malinformation is
malicious
true
intent?
information that might do harm.
Did not know this.
So there's
Ivermectin.
misinformation, disinformation, and
God.
malinformation.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Heard that.
Yeah, malinformation was
So-
something they were trying to promote during the Biden administration as being dangerous, and it's essentially the truth.
I knew we've got to
Ivermectin.
reconsider the First Amendment.
Yeah.
I've seen all those clips. That is some scary shit. It's like Senator Kerry, Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton. And do we criminalize people who are promoting this misinformation? But I did not hear malinformation.
Did you ever see the CEO of NPR doing a TED Talk saying that sometimes the truth gets in the way of getting things done?
Oh God, no! But I've heard them all say that and said it on. Oh my God!
Well, it's an infantilization of the public because they're too stupid to handle the truth. They're dumber than you. You're
they
the
won't tell us about
purveyor
aliens.
of information, and you need to give them the information that gets things done. And sometimes you have to lie to them. Like vaccines are safe and effective.
Oh my God, what did you post? I think it was the cover of the New Yorker, but said something about doing away with the First Amendment.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful idea.
like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, the real-
it's not like number 14,
Great
by the way.
Britain
Or
has
like,
done
number
that.
5 is number 1. The First Amendment.
It's in the way. It's in the way.
That, to me, when you're having this debate about Kamala versus Trump, I'm like, how do you guys have this selective outrage about what's flipping your shit? I want due process for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's, probably beats his wife and is a suspect. I get it. I
Seems
wanted
like
to.
he's got MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles.
I mean, come on. And there was a deportation order. Just say it. Like, so you
see the
can't.
photographs that his wife puts out where she covers his knuckles in every picture?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hilarious.
I mean.
So I was saying, oh my God, they deported a Maryland man and a father, because that's what I was reading in the news.
Same.
And then you get into it and you're like,
Same.
oh, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. And then they released the dash cam footage, the police footage of when they arrested him. Not dash cam, whatever the cops are wearing.
I know what you're talking
Body
about.
cam.
I thought the exact same thing.
It's crazy, but it's just like you can't just go on narratives, because these narratives are just designed to make the Trump administration look like monsters.
Yeah. So Trusted News Initiative is basically propaganda.
Yeah.
And you go back to the clip that had all of them speaking the exact same language and in chime.
Threat to our democracy.
Same thing that we dealt with in COVID when people like you and I were talking about ivermectin very early on and the alternative treatments and the different things. There's actually another clip ad here that talk about what I think they were mocking Rogan. But the important part of it is, to me, again, on the defunding side, you get organizations and groups like this that can lie in mass. It can not just affect a narrative that can be destructive here in the United States, but it connected all the way around the world, and everybody was told you need to vaccinate, and you need to not leave your house.
Yeah,
you need to not. If you leave your house, we're gonna shut down your bank account, or you're going to get put in jail. Or if up in Canada, when they had the trucker strike, they were able to defund people that gave money to the truckers. They defunded the truckers, so they basically took away your money.
Sure.
Because you were using your First Amendment. So the whole First Amendment thing is kind of an important thing, and anyone that talks about malinformation, and you and I, even if we have a batshit crazy idea that we were talking about that we're wrong on, that needs to see the light of day, and then we can be called names.
They
and we
can call us out.
Then we'll say, well, we were wrong about that, and I'll wear my I was wrong shirt.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doc.
Great Britain is doing that right now. They're taking away the freedom of speech to all their people. If you make a nasty post on Facebook, they'll come and take you to jail. And the head of the police department in London said, we'll even get you if you're in the United States. Well, let them try. Let them try. If they come over here, they're going to have a lot of lead in them.
Well, do they mean that they'll be able to get a European individual, or like if an American says something bad about the monarchy or something, they're going to come get them? Oh, huh.
They'll put out a request to bring him over, and nobody in the U.S. is going to want to do that. But that keeps you from traveling if you want to. Don't want to go to Great Britain. Don't want to go to the EU. So
I really don't want to leave the country. I think the world's gone to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, well, I sure as hell won't go back to Canada. It was bad enough the few times I went up there.
Germany's out for me.
Yeah.
See, Canada, though, I want to go.
Germany's getting better.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a wonder you weren't beat up when you were over there.
Felt like it was happening.
So Canada, though, I really want to go to Canada. I want to go. They've got a memorial and everything for Neil from Rush at the Lakeside Park. Look at where he came up with the idea for the song Lakeside Park and stuff. So I'd want to go to Canada mainly for all that stuff. But
you wouldn't go there and start talking politics.
Oh no, I'd start
sharing memes.
I'd go, hey Rush, eh? Hey, yeah, Rush, eh? Oh, yeah.
Don't make fun of the prime minister and put it on Facebook or something while you're there.
Yeah, that's
they'll
true.
take you to jail. That's kind of weird. But whatever.
Well, and they might be looking for you. It's just like at the border, they'd ask you if you had any Frank Zappa recordings in your car.
I don't. Well,
they'd take them away from you. That was 25 years ago
in Canada.
But, yeah.
Are you shitting me?
No.
What did Frank Zappa do?
He must have been controversial.
I mean, I know Frank. I know the Frank Zappa music.
You know Frank?
Yeah.
I know Frankie. No, I don't know Frank, but I mean, I know the music. I mean, I know of.
The difference between a fairy tale and NPR. Fairy tale begins once upon a time. And NPR begins. I saw I heard an unusual article on NPR. They're the same thing. It's all BS.
I'm going to drive a spike into the media question that we're talking about, the defunding side of things, and just remind people over and over and over again. So when I talk about the defunding conversation and having balanced money, if you're going to have money, showing all narratives, basically all I'm seeing with media is it's protecting statist or uniparty pharma. It's protecting corporations and centralized power. And one of the main themes I have in this podcast and things I try to bring into it is decentralizing power and decentralizing information. Take bad information, prove it wrong, flush it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so this clip, I think, does a pretty good job, I think. Hopefully.
Hearing this.
Late August of 2021, FDA put out the infamous horse tweet. The attractive healthcare worker nuzzling the horse and says, seriously, y'all, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, stop it. Tweet went viral. That's right. That's when Joe Rogan got smeared for taking ivermectin. And then right after that, Biden mandated the shots.
It's time to impose requirements on key groups to make sure they're vaccinated.
And they took away monoclonal antibodies. So it's all very orchestrated.
But monoclonal antibodies, I've never heard anybody say that they weren't helpful.
Right. But if you have monoclonal antibodies available as an option, people are going to do that rather than get the shot. So that's why, in my opinion, that's why they took away the monoclonal antibodies.
Which were working.
They worked great. I mean, it was...
So this is like the most evil thing that's ever happened in the United States.
Yeah, in my opinion, definitely.
You're making my heart beat fast hearing this.
Late August of 2021, FDA.
Yeah. So again, just a reminder. Again, these trusted news networks.
And they call Trump a Nazi. This sounds like very Nazi Germany kind of thing. This is very authoritarian.
You're going to listen to what we tell you. You're going to do what we tell you to do with your body. You can't do anything other than what we tell you. Like the dangerous and scary thing that what the left, ultra left, the uniparty, and our state media have come together to do is they blame and shame. And when it doesn't support their narrative, they'll turn their weapon at you. And the thing about Rogan, where I feel...
I like the two pictures there, the picture they doctored versus what was really happening.
They got a picture of him looking green and like Incredible Hulk because they were trying to mock him.
Right.
Which turned out, I think he's got a lawsuit or maybe already got money from them. But at the end of the day, again, my point is, I know there's people in my sphere that probably, I don't know if they make fun of me or whatever because I call out these things and I see them and I won't shut up. And ultimately it's just a control narrative and they're trying to not have the conversations. They just want to live, and just, why do you even have to talk about that? Well, we have to talk about it because if shit ever hits the fan again, we got to know who to look to, and we not fall for the same junk that we did before.
Kind of makes me feel like I'm taking you way off base here, but you've seen the Matrix, right?
Yeah,
the character who knows the real reality, he wants to be put back in and like remember nothing. Like he just wants to be dumb and just live a dream life or whatever. And I think that's kind of what that boils down to. Is they just don't want to know. They just like, I don't want to know that it's bad. I don't want to know that it's
I get that every day at home. I don't want to hear it.
That's just being you're not even married, but that's having a significant other living with you.
I think we all get that. At some level.
Yeah. But my wife really doesn't want to know. I don't think she doesn't really listen to the news or anything. And I come home with the information that we talk about, and she goes, before you met that Chad guy, I liked you more. And all this crap that's coming from this show you guys are doing, I don't like it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mine doesn't.
She doesn't really dog you. But
she doesn't watch after the first round of our podcast. She doesn't watch it anymore because she said I didn't get to talk very much. Well, I talk plenty in here now, and it's probably crap that nobody wants to hear.
No, and in your defense, I talk too much, and she's right about that. And so I've tried to.
She's the
better.
one who hit our Trump bumper sticker. So,
that's right. Yeah, I'm trying to get better at that, but at the same time, part of the reason why I'm doing the podcast is because there's things that happen that I feel are important to get out, and I think we got a good balance now.
Because you added me.
Yeah,
that's right. Travis.
Well,
is the winner.
yeah, Travis. Travis.
I'm the town idiot.
Yeah,
I'm the one who plays the idiot over here that talks about whatever.
Okay, so
polio.
We could just stay in the same lane and do it. There's a whole big vaccine clip that we could watch. There's another clip about T cells and fighting cancer. We already promoted Ivermectin, but Dr. Roy has Ivermectin for sale, and you can contact either one of us here. Dr. Roy, want to give him just
if you want to put the camera on me.
Yeah.
This is a box of Ivermectin. It comes in little blister packs, and if you have COVID, you'll take 5 of these over 5 days. It's 12 milligrams, and the total for enough to treat 2 people with COVID is $30. And we're happy to get them. I've got quite a lot at home. I just made a big sale today, and one of our
listeners, our viewers,
one of our listeners bought 10 blister packs.
Wow, awesome.
And
and so people know, we are using. Dr. Roy is not buying Bitcoin with that money. He set down a stack of cash here tonight, and we are looking to buy new equipment for the podcast and hopefully expand the programming, since we're not getting any of that NPR cash. But so what we're using it for is to hopefully bring you more information that you want to hear. So reach out to Dr. Roy on Twitter. He's AirRescueDoc at AirRescueDoc. Your Gmail account is
21centuryhc@gmail.com.
Yeah, 21. The number 21 Century Healthcare.
HC is health. It's 21 Century Healthcare.
21 Century HC at gmail.com. Or you can hit me on Twitter.
Or you can hit me on Facebook.
How many? Where are we at?
2:30.
Okay, that's it's probably long enough. There's actually a really good. There's. I don't want to go down this other path because I think that'll be a 30-minute conversation. No matter what we do. There's another clip I may save till next. Well, we're going to try to get together with a guy named Kristen and maybe get her in here if we can. Maybe next week we're going to be talking about. A lot of the things that are popping up with vax injury and the turbo cancers and all that stuff that are going on.
I've known Kristen for probably 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And she's had a lot of problems, and she's getting much, much better, and she's done some things to help her get out. But she's going to talk to us about long COVID and what she did to get better.
Okay. That's fantastic. And so, like, and I don't know if she's done ivermectin to get rid of long COVID, or
I suspect she has. She hasn't got it from me.
Yeah, you just don't promote it that way.
Yeah.
So Dr. Roy is not promoting ivermectin as an alternative treatment for cancer, but there are a lot of people out there that are. Again, informed consent. Dr. Roy's not telling you to do it. I'm not telling you to do it, but there's just a lot of data and stuff out there that I feel like everyone should know, or at least we can put into the spotlight and question. Okay, so I kind of feel like it might be a natural stop right now. I do have this. I don't want to show that guy.
Yeah, I think it's getting close to
Dr. Roy bedtime.
It's past my bedtime.
You're very peppy. I'm kind of upset that I didn't get you as fired up today as I thought I would.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't bat an eye, really.
Did we cover everything on the whiteboard pretty well, Travis? Have you even looked?
Let's see, flu shot prevent death.
We didn't really talk about autism. I got one clip about autism that I think might actually be kind of our last one we can go out on, if I can find it.
RFK measles update.
It'll be a short one.
Stem cells. You didn't really talk about stem cells in urine. You did before.
No, I don't have a lot of data on that. That was just more for me and Dr. Roy to talk about on the side, and I'll bring more.
The AI takeover.
Yeah, that's a deeper one. You and I would riff on that for probably 30 minutes. That's why I don't want to get too deep into that.
Heck yeah, we would.
Bear with me here. I thought I had it right in the middle. This is part of the thing of not having a producer that knows everything that I want to talk about in all the clips is sometimes I got to be... I'm not going to do the autism thing. Did I say I was going to do the autism thing?
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, so I guess my question, last reel, I saw this, and I think it's a Rosie O'Donnell clip.
Oh, joy.
Well, and, she moved out of the country because she was scared of Trump or whatever it is that she wanted to say. Whatever she said was the problem. And a lot of the things that you hear from the media and the people out in the world that, and not your wife directly, Travis, but they're doing too much too fast. And there's all this pushback. Well, why is Trump doing all these things? He doesn't know anything. And so Rosie O'Donnell's still weighing in. And I don't know why we keep giving her air, but there must be, here I am getting ready to share something that talks about her, but it's like, I don't understand why people are so giving so much pushback about trying to find where autism come from, Dr. Roy, or why it's gone up at the level it has. I just don't get it. If we just knew and it wasn't anything environmental, or it wasn't anything in the food, it wasn't vaccines, it wasn't anything, maybe it's something that we can't really do anything about. I would rather know that rather than it just not be a thing. So let's listen to this, see if it brings out anything.
Okay.
Of all people, Mr. Secretary, and I don't want to be mean or personally attack her, but she says you're unqualified. You don't know the science, and you should be fired. What do you say to Rosie?
Well, there was a wave of anger against me because I announced that we're going to find the cause of autism. This is something that President Trump told me on day one. I want to know what's causing it within a year. And I announced how we're going to do that. We are going to farm out grants to 15 groups, teams of the top scientists in the world. And we're going to look at all of the possible culprits. And we're going to do that within a year. We'll have answers within 6 months. We'll have definitive answers within a year, and we'll know. And then we'll be able to eliminate the exposures. And this kind of tsunami of anger against me for making that announcement was almost incomprehensible to me. I mean, why would people not want to know what the cause of autism is?
Yeah. There you go. That was kind of, I felt like a closing fit is like, we're here asking questions, trying to share information to people just so they are aware that these things are going on. Because if you're just paying attention in the media, it's 24/7 anti-Trump. They're not giving. They're not talking about any of these things. Part of MAHA, what drove I think the three of us to get excited about it was the unifying type of thing that being healthier should not be ever political.
No,
should never be political. Our safety and our security should never be political. It should be. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be safe.
Right.
We want good, strong borders that keeps bad people away. We want to, have laws that protect us from bad people, and we want good science and good food. So that's the mission of Unite the Divided. I want to, hopefully I'd like to have more people on that don't agree with what we're saying sometimes, that we could have good conversations with.
I would love to.
They don't come out of the woodwork.
No, nobody. They won't talk, because I think they realize. I don't want to say they in some kind of blanket statement, but I think they kind of realize that they're not right. Like that we would be able to win the arguments. I think at this moment of the things you would bring up. I think that's why you're not going to really get many people to talk.
Well, and I don't come on here to want to be right. I just come on here because these are the things I see every day, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that.
And the crazy thing is that more people than not would not be on our side, even though we'd be correct. You're going to get a lot of people that are just going to get pushback. They don't want to know, kind of like you were talking about. They either don't want to know.
Just cover their ears.
Yeah, exactly. They either don't want to know, or they I don't know, they don't want to take the time to understand the problem or understand the solution or what the solution may be. Or,
see, I wonder if
I don't know what it would be.
If RFK would have teamed up with Obama, how things might have been differently. That's the spectrum that I like looking through, is because Trump derangement syndrome is so strong that anything that is done in this window of time, it's just going to be crazy.
Since he's 1 degree of Trump,
it can't be good. It can't be good. Same thing with Elon. If Elon would have, he was
the Doge would have come about.
Yeah, because that's what a lot of the lefties were talking about. Some righties
Obama talked about a Doge.
Yeah.
I mean,
he talked about it a lot.
It just never happened.
Well, and so it's a bad idea because it came out under Trump. So again, I just, these are the things that are very hypocritical. It's hypocrisy has always bothered me. But again, it's things that we can unify around, I think. That's why we talk about health a lot. First of all, because there's a lot of signals out there that scare Dr. Roy even, which scares the bat shit out of me, because I can't imagine why we're still doing mRNA. But the canceling of the gain of function research was really big, and I'm hoping the mRNA conversation happens really quick too.
Me too.
Me too. All right, I love you guys. Appreciate you. We're going to try to get on Kristen next week. We'll see. I got to make sure that I have enough time to do the research to prepare for that. Because that would be us looking down the pathway of people that have been harmed from COVID or from vaccines. The redox potential probably is where I'll get into more of the natural cures, and we can talk about some of the things that are going on and what Kristen went through to maybe get herself on a road to better health. But in the meantime, we hope to see you next time. If you stuck it out through the 2.5 hours, we greatly appreciate it and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Doctor.
Have a good night,
Thanks, Dr.
everybody.
Roy. Thanks, Dr. Roy. Travis.
Bye-bye.
Love you guys. Peace.
See ya.